That's the original. I think
I know a lot of
yeah, so I don't know. Actually, massive. And they're and so that's my fault. They didn't have because
Oh,
they're just coming in direct so that's why how how we kind of came up with this. And so my point is
We have everyone here except for our alternate, Commissioner Ewing and
Fred.
Fred. But we do have quorum, which is good news. Tonight we do have quite a bit of things on the agenda. So before we officially get started, is there any notice or any announcements we need to make that's not related to the agenda item? Again, one thing I mentioned last time, so I'm sure some of you were here last time, there's also some new faces in the room. Just want to go over a little bit of the meeting, what you guys are going to see this evening. So there is an opportunity for a public comment on each of our posted agenda items this evening, but you do have to sign up ahead of time. So there is a sign up sheet at the front door. Make sure you add your name to it. We are going to be collecting it after our first agenda item is passed through, so you got to sign up at that point. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to allow that public comment. For public comment, there is a few things to keep in mind. I said a few other things. So whenever we have to wait until public comment to open in order for the speaking to start, and you also will have a 3-minute time limit when speaking this evening. As much as we would love to discourse and have a conversation with you during your public comment, unfortunately, we can only speak to matters of fact, and we're very, very limited in what we can say. So more than likely, you're just here to say thank you. Please know it's nothing against you personally, it's just state law requires that. And then after everyone has spoken, I will then close public comment and we will discourse and then vote at that time. When voting, the commission has 3 options. We can vote for approval, vote to recommend approval, vote to recommend denial to the city council, or we can vote to table or postpone. So one of the agenda items tonight was on agenda last month. We've decided to postpone it in order to get some more information for this meeting. And then at the very, very end of the meeting, if there's anything that you would like to speak to the city or the commission about that's not related to the agenda item, there is also another opportunity at that time as well. So let's go ahead and get started today. So let's go with regular agenda item 2.1, consider approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes from August 5th, 2025. I only saw one correction. Yeah.
I saw one.
Yes. It was for Brad's last name whenever he was voted co-chair. Yeah. So that's the only one I saw. Did anyone else see anything else?
I wasn't here for that, but
I can make a motion.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings from August the 5th.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. Everyone. We'll move on to 2.2. Consider a request by Javier Huerta with Borgio Works on behalf of the property owner Jason Field for variance to section 3.08102B4 of the City of Woolverde Code of Ordinances at 20419 State Highway 46, Woolverde, Texas 78163.
Yes, good evening. This variance request is regarding the multi-tenant development off Highway 46. The applicant is requesting a variance to the number of monument signs, which allows one monument sign per street frontage with a minimum distance of 500 feet from another monument sign. Site plan A represents a code compliant sign arrangement showing the existing TRB monument sign facing Highway 46 and the proposed monument sign facing Woolverde Crossing. These signs are shown at 500 feet apart. Site plan B represents the applicant's sign variance showing the existing TRB monument sign that is facing Highway 46 and the proposed multi-tenant sign facing Woolverde Crossing. These 2 signs are proposed at 306 feet apart. Site plan B also proposes an additional monument sign facing Highway 46 being 367 feet from the existing sign. Both of these signs have been reviewed and meet the maximum area and dark sky requirements. Please let me know if you have any questions. I believe that the authorized agent for the applicant is here. If you have questions on the signage.
Yes, absolutely. Should we have some questions?
I don't have questions.
So the signage that is TRB, so that would be the only, on 46, that would be the only sign. They wouldn't have that, TRB at the top and then have the other ones at the bottom.
It's about was approved with just the TRB logo with the existing sign permit.
And it says monument signed by others, just another company, I'm assuming.
It's a TRB sign. I'm not sure. I think it's the same sign company that did that.
Thank you. You guys, the faces are all new. This project has been 8 years in the making. And we're about to, as you guys can see, it's about to wrap up, but it's really, Texas Regional Bank was the one who actually got kind of the investor group involved and to develop the whole site. And they were the ones that about 8 years ago brought this up to us, and it's taking this long because of meeting requirements and tree cert, all this other stuff. But TRB, the idea is TRB will have a corner sign by itself right by the bank, and we just want to have a monument sign at the entrance to the property itself. We do understand that originally, and I'll back up, and this is why I say it's about 8 years. Originally, our goal was to actually subdivide TRB out of the project and then develop the project. So there have been 2 projects. It was just the planning, everything, there was a lot of stuff that we couldn't do that. So now it's going to be kind of a condo regime, but now we're stuck with TRB just wanting that monument sign just to kind of have its presence. And the rest of the plaza, where I think the signs meet the requirements, everything that's required. Is just we want to see if we can add those monument signs in addition to what's been approved already.
I'm just thinking, it's just one additional monument sign.
Two
additional?
yeah. TRB is considered a monument.
Okay, I thought that one that showed where they. Oh, because they're moving.
Okay, so
They're
not that one. The first page, so this one is 46, and this one's on that loop around in front of you. Yeah.
I thought there was one that showed you guys stayed within code compliant, and that was only
That's the first
corner
one.
and the
So
one.
I think the first one's code.
It's 500 feet from the TRP sign. But then,
Number page 2 is the 500 feet.
So number 2 is code compliant.
Yeah.
Number 3 is not, because it's too close and they want an additional sign. Yeah.
One additional.
Right.
That's what I thought.
One additional and waive distance.
Yeah.
Any questions for the applicant?
And just both signs are at the entrances of the project. The only one that's at the corner is the TRB sign, which is not, it's just a smaller sign. It's TRB.
And they're same style on both of these
Right.
monuments.
Both of them, I mean, State Highway 48 has the same kind of sign. It's not a very tall sign. I think there's in the back, there's kind of you can see on the 404, there's 2 people standing next to the sign. It's not a very tall sign. It's compliant with all the other requirements.
12 feet, yeah, 12 feet tall.
The backlit?
The monument signs are 12 feet tall by their graph.
It's yeah, I mean, it's the, I guess that's what you call those boxes, so, you know, back, but,
Lit.
Backlit, but
yeah. What's that?
Just
dark
sky.
sky.
Yeah.
Yes.
How many total leasable spaces are there within that building?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 16 plus the bank. They're not leasable, but that's 17 for the whole site. And then we have a pad side on the right hand side. So there's 18.
Still gonna put the salad in, or are they still gonna put the salad in to go on that?
So that's still confidential, but yeah, the idea is we're still working with. We actually the project. Unfortunately, I wish I could divulge, but the first floor is almost leased out. They're in the process of signing all the LOIs, but I think once we opened it up, there was a big demand for it. Now we're working on the second floor, trying to get that leased up.
So if you're booked out, you got 16 spaces, but on your sign you've only got 7 available slots.
Yeah, not everybody will get, yeah. Now,
So somebody's not gonna be happy once it,
well, the thing is, that's why some of them could be on, Highway 48, some of them could be on, Redwood Crossing,
Okay.
by
Any public comment related to this matter? I don't think I had any.
I signed myself up, I didn't realize that was 4%.
Hey, it's all good. Good to have, cover all the boxes. All right, no public comment, so we're closing that at 6:12.
You know, we're trying to cut down on our number of variances, but I don't really see a problem with this, to be honest with you. I mean, if you're covering a large space from different angles and you're gonna have multiple tenants, you know, as a norm, I would say that's probably, I don't know if anybody's even gonna notice that sign they drop down 46, you know, usually looking at Whataburger. But I have no problem with it. I don't know what any of y'all are thinking.
So I looked around at all the other signs in the area, you know, where the old HB is with Planet Fitness and all that. They only have one line. It's only on 46. There's not
Okay.
one on Woodbury Crossing. You look at Home Depot, their monument signs actually not on their property. It's over by the pediatrician's office over there by those office with their big sign.
Okay.
So I feel like personally, I'm fine leaving the 500 feet and allowing the second one on 46.
Okay.
Or on Woodbury Crossing. They can have either one, right? So I'm fine with saying you can have, because they are allowed one side, but I'm fine with just, but I don't. Second sign.
Okay. Stay within the compliance.
Right, it's just saying like, hey, they don't have 500 feet on the front necessarily to put it away from the other side. So I'd be okay waiving the 500 feet. They can put it where they want. If they want to put it on Woodbury Crossing. So bad if you want to go on 46.
You know,
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
well, keep in mind though, that first page, the 204, that is over 500 feet. So that would still be compliant if they put it on Woodbury Crossing.
No, for sure. I guess I'm saying is I'm willing to let them put it on 46. They wouldn't be able to put it on 46 without
Correct.
that variance. Correct. So I would say we just.
I just want to point out, the sign on Woodbury Crossing will be allowed by right. It's already
At 500 feet away.
500
I
feet.
thought it was only one per property.
No, it's one per road frontage. So the TRB is the one on 46.
Okay.
So you'd end up with 3 signs anyway.
Okay.
So why would the one on the corner of the TRB be considered 46 and not Woodbury Crossing?
It's perpendicular facing.
Is it
Got it, okay, so it's facing that
Kind of like
direction.
some.
Well, and I feel that the one that would be on 46, with the multiple, when I drive by and I look at, you know, Popeyes and Schlotzsky's and
Right.
Whataburger, I don't even know if I've ever seen the sign except for when I'm turning onto, I guess now it's Old Bulverde Road when it cuts across. So for me, for them to have a sign on 46, I don't.
Yeah, I don't think anybody but the kids in the elementary school can see it.
Right.
The other concern I have is visibility when you're exiting to turn right out of that parking lot onto 46.
Yeah, it's 12-foot signs. It's be hard to see.
That's my concern too.
And I'm assuming that each of the tenants of this building will also have signage on the facade of the building,
It's up to
Yes,
us.
they do.
as long as it's within,
Yeah, as long as it's
with
fine.
the size.
Right.
Now, is there tenants that are only facing 46 and only tenants that are facing the parking lot? Or did the space, like, did the leasable spaces go all the way front to back of the building?
Right now, the leasable spaces go front to back. Yeah. But because of the way the parking's arranged and so forth, our parking's in the back, so that's why we have a little breezeway, and we do have signs in the back to,
Some people.
yeah.
So I guess I'm just trying to say, like, it should really, I think it should be one big monument sign.
So you're saying just 2 instead of 3?
Yeah,
Okay.
But
mul-
like,
the
but
multi-
like Jenny was saying, it's allowed by right,
yeah,
they could have,
Which means
well, I mean.
which means
they'll-
they'll just put it 500 feet away and be allowed a problem.
So, so why are we here?
Because they want 2.
Yeah.
They want 2, so they need the 500 foot waiver.
Right.
But if we just say, hey, stick with what you have, like variance, then they can't put it in front, they can only put it in the back.
Right.
I think that's really what we're
and that's my vote.
If that's
Five
what-
hundred feet apart and nothing in front.
Yeah,
Well,
As for it to be the code of compliant sign arrangement.
so that would just be a straight denial.
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion.
Anybody else?
Okay.
Uh,
I make a motion that we deny the request by Javier Huerta on behalf of the property owner Jason Leal for variance to section 3.08.
Can I, before we, can I just add one last comment? So is the issue 3 signs that we can put, because I would rather say we're not gonna put the one on where the crossing and just put the one on highway. That one's the more important one for us.
So the one on Highway 46 and the one on 40.
Yeah,
You just can't get it within 500 feet.
We can't stop them, put it on the other one.
Right.
but we can, I mean, if we needed to write something and put it in paper, I mean, we
There's no.
yeah, because the one up front is the one that's more important to, I think, the whole project. The one in the back, I mean, everybody wants that present or the name of the plaza out there, because that's where the name of the plaza is gonna be there.
Is there any
So, and the
opportunity?
number, because right now, the one that's been approved, and that's where TRB, because we were doing that project first, they signed off on that one and kind of, took it for the whole project, but the building itself won't have a number. I mean, it won't have a place where we can put the number, and that's why we wanted off Highway 46 to have that monument sign.
Is there an opportunity to talk to TRB again and to replace that corner with a monument sign for the entire complex?
Well, they're already, I mean, I think that was approved, if I'm not mistaken, that was approved a while ago, was it?
Right, and at the time, we warned them, that if they chose to take their one sign and use it just as TRB, they wouldn't be permitted by right to put up a second. And so they made that decision. The whole thing's owned, similar ownership, TRB interest, there's ownership interest in TRB and the other property that both.
yeah, they're all same development company, right?
You can also affix the address to the building itself.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could do that, but, I guess I'm just one last, if it's about having 3 signs, I would rather, say, or maybe we can even move, well, let me ask you this, if we move the TRB sign further into Boulevard de Crossing instead of the corner, does that make it part of, Boulevard de Crossing and not 46, and then we could just add the 46?
So city, correct me, so you have to change the orientation of that
They
sign.
have to go tear that sign down, get the new one permit, get it, and after all that was done, come back in and then they put the other one on. Yeah. It's not something that we would do, the commission wouldn't really necessarily have a role in.
But it's an opportunity for you after this vote as the avenue to take.
I still don't know, I don't see how you're still gonna get 500 feet. Right, because is it linear distance gaining or is it from distance
From each monument,
from each monument?
so he wouldn't need a variance.
Well, I don't know how he's gonna have to move
Put
it
it way over here.
way down.
Where the other
Way down the
Right.
line across.
But I guess from what I understand, and I'm not sure if I'm reading the code right, it's as long as I move it 5 feet or whatever, that's part of the Boulevard de Crossing. It's no longer on,
Yeah, it's on the sign.
oh, it's side to side?
Yeah, so you have to relocate, you wouldn't just have to change,
Orientation.
you'd have to put it in place 500 feet away from
Did you go to the slide?
the proposed.
Which would probably be about where you have
Yes,
your monument,
Roughly.
just doing some quick, the kind of green.
if you were to switch that.
You could do that. Well, again, cause again, and I don't mean to, kind of keep going on this, but, you know, our original idea was, it was gonna be 2 different properties. So each one, like I said, we didn't plat it, and separate it just because it was gonna take additional time, and we wanted to, I mean, this project took 8 years to be where we are. for many different things. And we worked and like I said, I don't think I recognize, I've been here, I was here 8 years ago and then a few more times. But, if there's any way, again, if it's not that, I mean, just that the sign meets all the requirements. And yeah, I mean, if it's gonna be 500 feet away, it doesn't make sense for the pylons for the bank to be where it is. But if you're gonna reject the variance, I mean, if there's any way that we can do just 2 signs, and I don't know, I mean, I know you're saying that there's nothing, but we would sign any paper, we would do anything to amend that, just to put 2 signs, so we can just put the corner sign and the sign at the end.
I believe the concern of the commission is the 2 signs on 46, and we prefer only have 1 instead of the 2. Now you have one what sounds to be already existing, saying you have to tear it down. Opportunity for to have the 1 sign on 46, that would be for the entire complex, TRB included. And then you could move another one off onto Bulverde Crossing 500 feet away, whether that's just for TRB or another monument site at that point in time.
What's the maximum height permitted on these signs?
It'll be definitely 12 feet.
Or extension. So that's the maximum.
Well, the 2 footprints, right?
Our signs are within the guidelines of construction.
Yeah, they're only asking for placement.
And they're,
Well, I'm just thinking if they combine one of the TRB and all of them.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
and TRB sign, when you look at, it's not a tall sign, it's even smaller than ours. It's not,
Single tenant signs have to be smaller.
yeah, it's a single tenant, so it's not what I would call a monument sign. It's just a single tenant.
So we had 1 motion, but we should probably state it again.
I make a motion that we deny the request by Javier Huerta on behalf of the property owner Jason Leal for variance to section 3.08.102B4 of the City of Bulverde Code of Ordinances at 20419 State Highway 46, Bulverde, Texas 78163.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor for denial?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Any abstentions?
All right, thank you.
2-3, consider a request by Wayne Floors on behalf of the property owner David Mueller for a variance to section 4.04E related to disturbance within steep slopes and section 4.05 related to cut and fill of the Bulverde's Code of Ordinances on the 128 acres located south and east of the Bell Oaks Ranch subdivision, north of the Monticola subdivision, and west of the Centennial Ridge subdivision.
Yes, so this is a variance request regarding the new Wallbox development. It's also known as Bergwald. The applicant is requesting a variance to Chapter 10A, disturbance within steep slopes. The city categorizes steep slopes areas into 3 sections. This variance is pertaining to the slope areas greater than 25%. There is no construction activities allowed within this zone unless they meet the exemption requirements. The work within the slope area will be encroaching on several lots in order to facilitate road and drainage infrastructure, which are not considered exemptions within those lots. Additionally, the applicant is requesting a variance in Chapter 10A cut and fill section. The state does not allow for a cut or fill greater than 4 feet unless they meet the exemption requirement. The proposed cut and fills greater than 4 feet will encroach on the individual lot, not meeting these exemptions. The applicant is proposing a proposed total cut at 14.54 feet, requiring a variance to the additional 10.54 feet. The applicant is also proposing a fill of 10.63 feet, requiring a variance for the additional 6.63 feet. Does let me know if you have any questions. I believe that the applicant is also present. If you have questions on the development.
Any questions specifically?
Yes. Is it basically there's 3 places that they would need to have that the variance applies to? Looking at the purple and the teal.
Sam, can you go down a slide, please? Yes, so these are going to be the 3 disturbance and slope areas that encroach onto the lot. One is for drainage, which is detailed C. Can't really see that part, but and then the other are two for the road infrastructure. Do you have questions for the applicant? Okay.
I'm Wayne Flores with Colliers Engineers representing Mr. Muller. We do have 3 areas, or 2 within the road construction that just barely get into the 25 feet, or I'm sorry, 25% existing slope. The other one is an existing pond that's on the site, and it's actually the existing berm is the reason it's steeper there. And what we're trying to do with all of these, we've gone to tremendous efforts trying to save trees out here. I mean, we've adjusted the alignment of the streets so many times because we'll go look to see what trees are there and shift it over a little bit here or there. And that's what's happening is we're getting into an area in order to save the tree. It's forcing us to cut a little bit in there. The one that's on the existing pond, what we're doing there, we've got to do detention per code. If we can utilize this existing pond, that's less area we have to disturb. That's less trees we have to take out. But we've got to design an outfall structure. And so it's strictly our outfall structure, which would be a concrete weir for that detention pond. And it's that small area where that will be is where we're disturbing 25% on that. As far as the cut and fill areas, it's most all of those are to do with our detention basin. We're having to obviously put it at the low point of the site and cut back into the site to create volume for detention. We're doing this. We're trying to cut back more because our only other option to abide by the no greater than 4 feet of cut is to do multiple ponds stair stepped up. And if we do that, that's a lot more footprint of area that we're widening out trees. And if you look at the site, it's covered with trees. And so if we cut back more, it reduces the overall footprint for those ponds. And so that's the whole reason we're doing it, to save trees.
So this really isn't at roads that you're doing the cut and fill. It's at the detention ponds.
Most of it is the detention ponds. There's a couple of areas for the cut and fill greater than 4 feet to do with the roads. We tried to lay this out where all of our roads were going, with slopes, so that there is very little cut and fill. But obviously, you got to connect the roads somewhere. Where you do, you're going to have some that you're paralleling the slope, and that's where you can't get around it. There's some areas you gotta work with what you're dealt there.
Sure, if you grade change here. It's very tough
No,
ground.
it's got some areas, a lot of slope, yeah.
And the mechanism that you were talking about that for the drainage, about how large of an area are you moving to cut and fill in order?
It's on the slope map. I realized,
Go back.
go back. So it's hard to see with all the red, so I apologize, but of course you can't see if I'm pointing to something.
The far left is the long finger, it kind of goes up to the circle.
The far left, you see kind of a rectangular area, that's the easement for the detention. And the other one is the far southeast corner. You can see some of the easement over there as well. And you see the steeper slopes to the southeast, that kind of cyan color and purple color that makes like a loop.
Mm-hmm.
That's the existing pond.
Okay. And so is that mechanism going all around this pond, just in the outflow section of this pond?
Just the outflow. Yeah.
For the right.
We're leaving the rest of the
Side
berm.
is groove.
Okay.
But it's technical.
Are you guys cutting into, you said it was they burned it up. Right?
We are,
It's previously, it's not go that way.
It's 7 years old.
Right, so what you're cutting into, is that mostly fill material, not natural?
We don't know.
It's been there so long, I don't know.
I think you can see what I'm getting at, right? Like,
Yeah.
we do kind of self-employ some things where if you built a detention pond 20 years ago, it was put in, and then you want to go knock it down, you're technically disturbing the steep slope when it was man-made, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just curious what part of it's man-made and what part it's not.
the only thing that we would be disturbing on the existing berm itself is probably gonna be the size, like the size of this podium. And that's just to design the outfall structure.
It's a third of our line, should help of the existing one. Or no, it doesn't hold water.
And that's down here in the
That
far.
circle on the bottom right, so that holds it, then it'll dump off into that box, in the bottom right, or bottom right. Into one that we have to do. So otherwise, that would have to be a third one, and that's all trees down there. So we're utilizing no covers.
When you say, have y'all done any kind of tree survey? I'm trying to say oaks, like.
All those.
All oaks.
We've,
Got it. Sharper, so like, and we're bring this up.
Not this evening, I'm sorry.
okay,
Oh, okay.
we have
a tree survey.
we've done a tree survey of the rights of way and the easements where we're looking to do detention and drainage. And again, trying to locate everything where we can minimize the amount of trees taken out.
Just a procedural question, Danny, are they just restricted to these areas specifically, or is this granting an exemption for the entire site to be cut fills like this?
It's just these sites, and generally the roadways and a lot of this drainage would be exempt, except that in several spots, they're just putting outside of the road right of way on private lots, and then they're containing their drainage infrastructure inside of easement instead of a standalone drainage lot. So that's why they are having.
Okay, that's.
An engineer's letter would have gotten over the finish line in different circumstances.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, it seems a little odd, like we're normally kind of.
Yeah.
So.
Looks like I hate to say it, but it looks like we're picking at little nits, because, I mean, if it adjusted, with a little adjustment, like you said, an engineer's letter.
Oh, that was offered, the applicant decided this route is why being wrong.
Yeah.
And is an elevated roadway an option for these two spaces that where they're going onto the lot instead of it, cutting in? I mean, I know
Well, what's happening is in these few areas, it's like we're going along the side of a hill. And so you're cutting on the uphill side, you're filling on the downhill side. And you've got to slope that back in the lot. It's either do that or it's build a ginormous wall there.
So we're gonna do other walls to save a bunch of trees, so we're setting it up instead of sloping. Because there's some oak trees that we want to keep, so we're doing 3-foot walls and pulling it in probably 30, 40 feet of width. Of slope that we don't want to cut in that far to save everything. And so we're already building some walls.
Right.
Still have to cut. When you're driving like this, there's a lot of components property.
Right.
And that's.
What you're saying, there are some areas that we are building walls because we don't want to get back where the trees are. There's some other areas where we've taken a look, like, okay, there's really no trees here that are worth saving, so let's just slope that area back.
And so Danny, just again to be clear, any homeowner that wanted to put a driveway down this and pick out trees on his.
They're gonna have to come in.
They have to come in. Perfect, that's what I want to make sure.
Everything, this is just for us. Everybody's.
I want to make sure on our side.
Those spots are identified on these.
Right, and that's why I want to make sure. Okay, perfect.
Okay, I don't have any public comment related to this matter, so we'll go ahead and close that at 6:36. Commission thoughts?
I'm fine with it as long as, like I said, I just want to make sure
Stay-
they're respected to where they are going.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they've done a good job trying to avoid stuff, but I looked at it earlier, so.
I mean, they're saying all the right things, so hopefully it's done something different. I think we're all right with it.
Yep.
All right, well, I will make a motion that we recommend approval of item 2.3, a request by Wayne Flores on behalf of property owner David Mueller for variance section 4.04E related to disturbance within steep slopes, and section 4.05 related to cut and fill of the Stable Ready Code ordinances on 128 acres located south and east of the Bell Oaks Ranch subdivision, north of the Monticello subdivision, and west of the Centennial Ridge subdivision. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion passes. 2-4, hold a public hearing and consider a request by Jose and Laura Chavez for the approval of a special use permit to allow a guest house located at 30563 Deerfield Terrace, Bulverde, Texas, 78163.
Yes, Madam Chair, this request is for the use of the guest house in the Bulverde Hills neighborhood, which is an R2 zoning district. Guest houses are not allowed by right in this neighborhood or zoning district, so a special use permit is required for the authorized use. The proposed guest house is allowed a maximum residential floor area of 998.25 square feet, which is based off of the area of the main residence. The applicant's proposal contains a floor area of 547 square feet, which is compliant with the allowed maximum area. The guest house will utilize the same access as the main residence, and the utility meters will be connected to the main residence.
Any questions for the city? Right, is the applicant here? Yes. I would just like to hear from you, why a guest house, just tell us a little bit of what you're trying to do.
Well, the guest house will be used for our relatives. Unlucky, my father-in-law passed away on February. She was taking care of him. I still have my mom, 92 years old, his mom. So the guest house is gonna be used for that or for other relatives. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to build.
And you're not planning on doing any short-term rentals or anything like that?
No.
So when you build the earthen berm in the back, so are you gonna be taking out trees when you do that?
No, all the trees are on the back of the property. There were 4 trees, which we are going to save.
Okay.
So the guest house is gonna be exactly in the middle of those 4 trees. So we're not gonna cut any more trees.
Okay.
So berm is done already, it's been built. So all the trees that are existing on the property, we can stay. Okay. Them all. Yeah.
So is the pool in yet?
No.
Okay.
We don't have the money to build pools, so we decided to build the guest house instead. Yeah. Might be in the future.
Any other questions? I have no public comment for this matter, so it's 6:40.
Yes. Any motion?
Yes.
All right, make a motion to recommend approval of a request by Jose and Laura Chavez for the approval of special use permit to allow a guest house located at 3563 Deerfield Terrace, Bulverde, Texas, 78163.
I'll second.
Do a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Right, 2-5. Hold a public hearing and consider a request by Samir Shahid with One Stop Group LP on behalf of Dash Interest LLC for the establishment of a PDD Plan Development District with the base zoning of R2 Residential District for approximately 229 acres, generally located 1 north of the intersection of Highway 281 and 1860.
Yes, this request is for the establishment of that PDD with the base zoning of R2 residential zoning district on 329 acres of the 388 McCarty Ranch property on US Highway 281. The applicant is proposing approximately 230 single-family residences on a minimum of 1 acre lots. The applicant is proposing a list of modifications to the city's code of ordinances. The modifications to residential lots are related to reducing the minimum front and side setback of those residential lots, increasing the lot aspect ratio of those residential lots, altering the method of calculation of the lot width of those residential lots, and altering the method of calculation of lots fronting cul-de-sacs. The modifications to parkland dedication are related to modifying the dimensional, access, location, and orientation requirements of the required parkland, and allowing riparian buffers to count towards the minimum calculation requirement. The modifications to the cuts, fills, and disturbance within steep slope requirements would be contained within an approximately 110-acre disturbance zone that is shown in Exhibit G. The modifications to street geometry are related to reducing the minimum right-of-way width, pavement width, design speed, centerline radius, cul-de-sac right-of-way, and eliminating the 4-foot shoulder requirement. The modifications to trees are related to reducing the tree survey to the area depicted in Exhibit O1, allowing the removal of protected specimen and majestic trees within the steep slope disturbance zone depicted in Exhibit O2, modifying the tree mitigation requirements to limit the total fee in lieu amount to $300,000, and altering the requirements for replacement trees. Lastly, there are modifications to the riparian buffers that are stated in the staff report. The applicant has prepared a presentation for this project, but if you have any questions before that, I'm here.
It was all very clear. Thank you so much for the summary and the time as well.
And yes.
Good evening, commissioners and chairperson.
Yes.
Sorry, maybe you're not ready for me.
We're good.
Very
So,
well.
there's a lot to go here.
This sounded really bad. Like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh my God. So, I wanted to put this whole thing in context. Okay, I think it's only fair. It sounds like a lot of modification. It sounds like we're coming in asking for a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of concessions. So I would like to invite you to look at this a little bit differently and work with us on where we're coming from and why we did what we did. So first of all, we did not want to be in a position where we're coming back later during platting and asking for this variance and that variance and this variance. We thought, plan twice, 3 times, 4 times, and cut once. The reason behind this is if you were to look at a project like this globally and say, doesn't matter what you change, it's going to affect something else. If you widen the road a little bit, you're going to be cutting more trees. If you don't account for those lots that are in the corners to make sure that the variances or at least the lot requirements are accommodating with a topo like this, when sloping could be down like this on the lot, could be sideways on the lot. So how do we make sure that in advance we spend all the time, energy, and effort and money, make sure that we're covering all bases? So by doing that, we're coming forward here saying we need all these modifications. At the end of the day, we've been developers for the past 20 years. We've been through many projects. I tell you with assurance, it is clear why we have a code, why every city has a code. And the code is about a set of technical terms to be able to enforce a certain behavior or a certain goal, be it community goal, be it preserving the hill country, be it making sure that we're mitigating flooding, be it making sure that we are preserving the trees. So all of these code regulations that exist have to do basically with a certain purpose. But I invite you to look at this, it's more in a global view, and if I was to just maybe navigate through this. Should I be pointing somewhere else? I'm assuming.
If not, I can navigate for you. I'm sorry.
Okay. So we've divided this up. So we wanted to come back. First of all, we want to thank you for allowing us a chance to come back. I know the first cut of this was, well, too much to ask. And we thought, okay, well, fair enough. Mea culpa, basically, we want to come back and explain it all in more detail. So because of the global view of this, because of all the extra work we did, if you look at our application, it's not your typical PDD application where it has to do only with zoning. we have exceeded, went above and beyond every single requirement. And we came back with a drainage analysis, which was not required. Came back with a wildlife study, which is not required. A tree study, which is not required. A steep slopes study, which was not required, technically speaking, right? So we could have come forward here and said, well, this is zoning we want. But it's unfair to do this without having all this information so that you can consider all of this at once. So we fall into three categories here. If you look at everything we're considering, there's the technical aspect asked, there's the environmental aspect, and there's the economical aspect. So on the technical aspect, we're strictly looking at the code modifications, and that list that came up with is very extensive. But I'm gonna go over maybe this a little bit differently and say, really, we are asking for 3 modifications for the code. The first one has to do with lot dimensions. And the reason why we're asking for those lot dimensions is not to bypass the process or bypass the technical requirement, but it's mainly to address those challenges we have with this particular property. This property was zoned for R3 and R2. It is zoned for R3 and R2. We could put, technically, we have one plan that we presented that could have clustered the lots, 0.5 acre lots. And we have been able to save a lot more grading, a lot more trees. All of that could have happened, but that would have required a sewer treatment plant. And we had feedback, don't do that. The smells and all of that. So we stuck with 1 acre lots. With 1 acre lots, believe it or not, we have to grade more. There will be more of a grading. We're getting more challenging in the way we need to keep above the 1 acre. So what does that mean? It means a whole bunch of technical challenges, and that is why we've been spending money and effort into addressing every single one of those aspects independently with each with their own study. So in terms of the three requirements we have, lot dimensions, environmental, really it has got to do, so everything we're asking for, cut and fill, steep slope disturbance, which is pretty much the same, as well as the riparian buffers protection and encroachment. All of those fall ultimately into drainage and flood mitigation, right? So if we have to clump all of that into one bucket, the lot dimensions, I explained that bucket. The third bucket has to do with the trees. And that is an environmental issue, and honestly, trees and wildlife. So if you look at the content, quite extensive, I hope you give us some credit for the extra effort we've been putting into this application, because we wanted, that has been great at giving us feedback. We were at revision 5, back and forth, which we very much appreciate. Part of that, though, puts a lot of pressure on our time to deliver a few things, including this presentation. So there are some mistakes in the presentation, and we apologize for that. There are some typos, there are some repetitions, and there are slides that are not necessarily reflected. I will go over them. There's a conflict between those slides, our summaries, and what we're actually asking for. And it was an honest mistake. I'm not trying to slow anybody. All right, so, oh, thank you, that's great. All right, so I addressed a little bit of this. So the base zoning, Keith mentioned that we initially we came with the base zoning that said we'll keep R2, R3. We're going to follow the line, because one of the biggest issues of keeping the existing zoning with the PDD was that the lines currently drawn for the zones as they stand cross certain lots. So we didn't want that. So we said, you know what, we come back and cut it clean. So, and we kept the ratio of R2 and R3 intact. But then we heard that there's preference potentially to go with an R2 base here. We said, okay, well, we would like to do that, but there's an issue with us giving up density in the sense that we're currently zoned for R2, R3. And if for any reason God knows, God forbid, the economy changes or anything happens. We wanted to protect the existing zoning because we could be another 10 years before we can do anything with this property, and the market could have changed. So even with this request, we want to protect our base zoning, our current base zoning, until such a time that we actually get that approval for this property. That is why, if you read our application, we have a clear statement that we will go with R2 the moment we have a plat approval. Otherwise, we would like to stay with our current, with the existing zoning.
And are you doing that boundary or?
We could do it very boundary. Honestly, we would do it any way you would want us to do it, as long as we are able to protect our existing zoning. The ratio, just in case there's something in the market that happens and we're not able to develop this plan. That's it. That's the only reason why you're seeing this contingency on base zoning. And honestly, we've never had issue with base zoning needing to change. One can always request existing zoning as a base. It's in the code. And all you have to do is just put the modifications in place for that zoning in order for us to be able to put the PDD together. The intent is to be able to develop a project that everybody's happy. That's the flexibility with the PDD. That's what it provides. So, environmental, I'm very thirsty. My environment, my water. All right, so in terms of everything else, we want to address the environmental aspect of this application, community impact of this application, and economic impact. The community impact is key in this conversation because we initially, when we put this property under contract, and the way the owners decided on pricing this property, it's priced based on the current zone. And that's the way they see it. And it's priced based on certain density. I know this is not anyone's issue. I'm not saying this is anyone's issue here. But for us, we came with the idea of high density. The first thing we've done is we went through multiple rounds of talking to the community. And what we heard back was simple: density, density, density. We want it to be low density, larger lots. But fine, went back, it is possible. We're able to do it because we're small developers. We don't have the overhead that everybody else has. We said, okay, so our plan is driven by the community. Nobody told us we don't want this property developed. Honestly, if you guys told us we don't want this property developed, we would have just walked away. Everybody was saying, well, larger lots. We want to preserve the hill country feel. We want to make sure that there's no through traffic for neighbors. We want to make sure that basically we're creating buffers to maintain the current feel, which is great. We'll do all of that. But now we're coming down to the technicality of how to do it. We're maintaining and honoring the spirit of what we have been asked. The technical aspect of it right now is, are we truly intruding on the code in such a way that compromises the intent of the code and the city's wish for this property? That's what it comes down to. So I'm going to proceed here really quick. I just wanted to frame this whole conversation. I may need your help. Thank you. All right, so can we move forward, please? Thank you. Do you have a mouse? I think.
No,
No?
I
Okay.
tried it earlier. I did not just see the button. Worked just a second ago. Might just be too far.
Might be our luck.
Tonight, just technology wise.
Okay. So yeah, it's gonna be challenging for you. All right. So basically, the lot dimensions. I wanna be clear on something. Doesn't matter which way we cut the lot, we're keeping it at 1 acre. That's very important for you to understand. I mean, we want to put lots out there that people can buy. We don't want to cut the trees. We don't want to be making the lots in such an odd shape or compromising someone's privacy with setbacks, especially side setbacks, where your neighbor is right there. It's not going to sell. We're more incented to maintain the privacy, maintain, the lifestyle, then honestly, the code is, because that is what's going to sell. If you look, doesn't matter what the lot dimensions that we're asking for, we are keeping every single lot above 1 acre. That's something for you to keep in mind. So let's just park the lot dimensions for a second. Next slide, please. All right, so would you mind going back 2 slides? I think we could jump one to table. This one here is very important. So this is where we made a mistake. If you look at the minimum width under R2, because that's the current standard that we are measuring against, it says, sorry, it says 80 feet. That's not right. It's actually 110 feet. It's 110 feet. And when we said unchanged, we're lying. It's actually 80 feet at 40-foot setback. Should be like, so what's on the left should be on the right. I apologize for that. I actually have a revised one, but I didn't want to say I'm going to hand anything because it's not. I was thinking about it. Actually, that's what's going to help, but we're not going to do that. So, but we're happy to send. But basically, put it this way: this property has R2 and R3. R3 is 2/3 of the property. R2 is 1/3 of the property. We are comparing to a standard here that is R2. Yet 2/3 of the property is R3. So R2 says 110 for the minimum width, and R3 says 85. But we're saying our typical lot size is 135. It's not 110. It's 25 feet wider than that. The depth, we're going to approximately 375 feet depth. That's our typical lot size. Now, the reason why we have these modifications is to be able to address the funny shaped lots, be it in cul-de-sacs, be it in, we're happy to provide you that. That's why we have the slide afterwards that shows you how everything is kept over 1 acre. This is very key because it sounds like we're asking for a lot of stuff, but really we're not. We just want to maintain the 1 acre and make sure that, we're sticking with being able to develop this property in a financially viable way. All right. All right, next one, please. Thank you. The cut and fill, I'm going to have Alan, our engineer, address it. Alan was here last time. Alan is a known entity when it comes to drainage. He's actually helped the city here. I was part of the team that helped put the code together for the city. So I would invite him here to talk about drainage. But I'm not going to address this for now. Next one here, tree survey area. And because there's a section on that, I want him to be able to come up and talk about it. So the trees, basically, we want to protect as many trees as possible. One of the reasons for the right-of-way being a little bit shrunk was actually because as we were looking initially, we've done a little bit of a tree study on the property. And some of the curves hit a lot of trees, especially actually 24-inch trees. So I'll be showing you the tree study that we've done. And we can talk a little bit about some of the reasons. Also, when we're shrinking the street a little bit, we're also shrinking the grading area, which means we'll be shrinking the cut and fill. Which is exactly what folks behind us, before us here, were talking about. So we are not asking for cut and fill anywhere where they're not asking. They're exactly the same requirements, just so you know. Like we're sticking with cut and fill only in the areas with grading, period. So in terms of the riparian buffer encroachment, I'd have also Alan talk about it because that falls with ultimately the mitigation of flooding. That's what that conversation is all about. And the parkland dedication, I think there was a misunderstanding because the parkland dedication requirement right now is 3.8 acres, 3.85 to be exact. That's the code. We're offering 6 acres in parkland dedication, and basically we're exceeding the requirement. So we're not asking for any modification on that. Next slide. So this is where I want to talk about the drainage. And again, when you're looking at drainage, hopefully you'll see in our mitigation strategy that we are actually going above and beyond any requirement, be it for PCEQ or the city's requirements on drainage. So I want you to take it from here.
Good evening, Commission. I just want to give a little background, just give you a little bit of my history. I haven't worked with all of you, but I've been around Bulverde for a while. I live just south of Bulverde, 281 of Bulverde. I started working with the city of Bulverde back when E.A. Hoppy was the city manager and John Nowak was the engineer. First thing I did was there was a question about, is rainfall changing in Bulverde? And they had old rainfall data, and it was before the new Atlas 14 NOAA study. I was the one who did the rainfall analysis. That was my master's thesis in college, worked in the gauged the Himalayas. The next thing I worked on in Bulverde was the Lewis Creek Tributary 2 drainage study. I was the one advocating for regional detention upstream of Oak Village North. That didn't end up happening. That was whenever there was the bridge that was crossing Lewis Creek. That was one of the alternatives that I was recommending at the time. Lewis Creek Tributary 10, I was the one doing inspections on that detention pond. We identified that the pond wasn't at the right elevation, and that got improved. That was back in maybe 2016 or so. So I've been around. I'm interested in the public safety and welfare of people. My firm does complex hydrology hydraulics, primarily for public entities. But this is a project I've been working on for a while, and I feel that the project is safe and it's good for the community. So with that, if you look at the exhibit there, that blue line represents the riparian buffers. And we are holding to the code here. So when we talked about, or when there's the variance about the riparian buffers here, the only places where we're encroaching on the buffers is for detention and for a roadway crossing. And then that, if you see that at the top portion there where we talked about having a natural channel in the middle of that street there, those are the areas where we're encroaching on the riparian buffers. So whenever we came up with this plan, we made sure that at the start we are going to limit that as best as possible. And I think we meet the intent of the code in that we are limiting our riparian encroachment. That's what the site was built upon. There's 3 crossings that we are encroaching on the riparian buffers. I don't know if that's in the next slide. If we go to the next slide, we go a little bit more maybe. Keep it going, I'm sorry. Keep it going, keep it going. Okay, I don't think we have it. I don't think we have it. What's that?
The photo.
Yeah.
So this one.
It's okay. I'm sorry. This will work. So there's a couple areas. Okay. Yeah, there's a couple lots as well. Okay. So there's also a couple lots where it's around the crossings. You see, there's some pink lots on there where it's really the back of the lot, and the lots encroach onto the riparian buffer, but all of the grading is going to be done adjacent to the roadways. So if you look in that southwest corner, where you see a couple lots where there's just a little bit of pink touching the blue, those aren't going to be touched. The areas where it's going to be touched is generally by the 2 crossings. So where you see this V, like the tilted V, there's 2 crossings, and at those crossings there's going to be slight grading in the riparian buffers. As for let's go back. There's a lot of slides here, but I'm going to be kind of short with this. We could go to the TCEQ. Yeah, go up 2 slides. No, the other way. I'm sorry. There we go. Perfect. So as for TCEQ compliance, we have about 440 acres or so that we are going to be draining, that's already draining, down to the southeast corner towards 281. And all of that drainage, and that includes some drainage from the Bulverde Hills neighborhood. All of that drainage is going to go into a batch detention facility, which is a retention facility that's required by TCEQ. As for the it's a contributing zone plan. As part of the contributing zone plan, that is meant to protect the aquifer. So right now there is no water quality protections. This is going to add a water quality protection that's not only going to treat the impervious cover of this development, but it's going to treat the impervious cover of Bulverde Hills. And that's a fact. This is going to be reviewed by TCEQ. This is going to be reviewed by the city of Bulverde and their independent consultant. So this is that will happen at the time of construction plans. But we did the calculations. The first 1.3 inches are going to be captured and retained. So meaning there's not going to be an outfall for that first 1.3 inches of rainfall. All of that is going to be stored. So anytime you have a 1-inch storm, you're not going to have drainage coming out of this facility. What are the most erosive storms for downstream properties? It's those frequent events because they happen more frequently. It's going to cause more erosion. That is going to stop downstream. So that's one enhancement that this project is going to produce. We can go to the next slide, please. As for the no adverse impact analysis, you see, we looked at all of the drainage pre-project and all of the drainage post-project. We looked at all the offsite drainage that's coming to this property, and we designed a detention footprint on that southeast corner and on the north corner. That detention footprint was designed at the beginning of this planning phase, and we designed it for, I think it was 34% impervious cover, and we designed that footprint. And then the plan went to the 20% impervious cover, the 1 acre plan. We didn't change the footprint, and so what you're going to have is less impervious cover than what the intent of the design. There was no additional lots that were created. They were reduced. The number of lots were reduced from the plan that initially had that detention facility size for 34% impervious. So it's going to improve not only the water quality, it's going to improve flood mitigation downstream. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And that's just some snips from some of the modeling that we did. So if you can go back to that screen, you can kind of see at that bottom graph, the top peak was your pre-project flow. The bottom hydrograph is your post-project flow. So you see the dashed blue and the solid blue. What you see is that solid blue, it's going to run off longer, but the peak is going to be less. And so you'll have a more prolonged flow, but it'll be a decreased peak. We can go to the next slide. Slope disturbance. The reasons for the slope disturbances is it's a very steep site. When we designed the plan, we try to stay as much as we can out of the very steep areas. For one, for the requirement, and two, it gets really expensive whenever you're cutting into, you can't develop on it. So all of our grading is designed so that we can have septic system and gradable lots, and also so that we can make sure that we can maintain the longitudinal slope requirements on the roadways. So the city of Bulverde, Texas has requirements on the slope of your roads, and to meet those slopes, we had to grade out on the lots. And you see that the gray areas are typical. I don't know if this is the exhibit, but basically the grading is going to be contained adjacent to the right of way, and the back of the lots are going to be left alone as is. You can go to the next slide. We can continue here. Keep going. So this is just an idea that we had for a natural channel at that area on the north section where we're gonna be encroaching on the riparian buffers. So where we're encroaching on the riparian buffers outside of the culvert crossings, our intent is to implement low impact development type, native grasses, a native channel design. So you can go to the next slide. I'm gonna pass it back to Samir. That's all I have for you. Thank you.
So Alan was talking about how we kept the footprint for the detention basically substantially oversized. We did it because we knew there's going to be some cutting and filling. We knew there's going to be, although we initially sized it for 34% impervious, that's when we had 60-foot and 80-foot lots. That's what we originally thought we were going to do. So when we ended up with 1 acre lots, we have 20% at best impervious. We could have shrunk that and claimed another 5 lots. We didn't do it. We thought, you know what? Our contribution to the community would be to make sure that we're not just mitigating our own extras, but also to mitigate from 2 angles. One is the flood mitigation, the other one is the water quality, what's going in the aquifer. Currently, what you have is not good. This project, with the extended facility, we're gonna have better quality of water going into the aquifer, guaranteed. We're gonna have less risk of flooding downstream from what you currently have. I would reclaim it, we stand behind it. Please let your engineers decide if we're right or not. It's that simple. Now, in terms of water, this has been a big issue, and water conservation has been something that obviously is on everyone's mind, but we thought we could potentially raise the standard of water conservation, not only by concept and by saying, you know what, we'd like to go with xeriscaping. That's our standard. And we're gonna let the HOA, or we're gonna go with rainwater collection as a standard. The HOA will take care of it. We decided, no, we're gonna make this an enforceable requirement by the code. It's the bylaw. You cannot go with anything else but xeriscaping. Period. It's in the code, attached to this PDD. The other thing is rainwater collection, in the code, attached to the PDD. The developer also, we've been looking at ways to say, can we use, because we're gonna have a big pond, can we use some of that for irrigation? So it'll be like this massive rainwater collection facility instead of just a small rainwater collection facility for each lot. Now, this actually came from the town hall meeting. There was a gentleman who took me to the side and said, have you guys thought about this? I said, dang, no, we didn't. So, what about we examine that? Now, because of this sloping, we just need to assess how feasible that is, but it's definitely in our plans. At least for a portion of the property, that we're able to use some of that water back into irrigation. Why not? Right? So the other thing is for the water, nobody asked us to put a water tank anywhere. We decided there's water pressure issues around us. Could we rely on the water provider to deal with this issue? Or can we be proactive and invest ourselves into potentially solving this problem? Now, we came forward saying we have 2 potential locations initially. One on the church property, one on the property. The church property is 10 feet higher, made sense. But there was opposition in 2 ways. One, the neighbors didn't like it on the northern end. And 2, it's actually difficult to PDD something that's not on your land. So even though we thought we could potentially reach an agreement quickly with the church that they wanted, but we thought, you know what, why the headache? Just we have one proposal, it's on our land, it's on top of the hill, and we will stick with that. Just one. So we eliminated the other option, no more. So basically on the water side, we believe we have a very, very good plan. Next slide, please. Now there was concerns on wildlife. So we thought we're not smart enough to deal with this. We wanted to give proper answers. So we hired Dave Dawson to go ahead and do a wildlife study. So what came back was very interesting. You all read this, but this property actually limits the movement of wildlife because of the fence that's around it. So if anything, at least even if we were to, I understand the need for the fence, say by the Bulverde area, Bulverde Hills, but we can potentially knock down the fence on the other sides and make sure that there's a flow of wildlife, which is the way it's supposed to be. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention. The property as it stands right now is not, will be substantially improved with the development, be it from a wildlife perspective or be it from a drainage perspective. Now let's talk about the trees. Please move forward, more, more, more. The tree study. Okay, there you go. So we wanted to do a good job like this. We initially had a preliminary assessment. We sent the arborist and team in to say, we want a better job at assessing exactly what we're dealing with from a tree perspective. Because we came in initially saying 200,000 homes. Sounded like we're selling potatoes and we're negotiating. And honestly, my partners and I were like, we need to know what we're dealing with. What are we asking the city? Go in and say 200,000 because that's all we can afford based on our financials. The city doesn't care. I wouldn't care from the city. So why not just come up with a good estimate? Let's spend the money on a tree study. We sent the people in, but we needed to, we didn't survey or do a tree study on 329 acres. We just couldn't. It was going to cost us $200,000. So we thought, why don't we do a, would you mind moving forward with this? So we looked at aerial images. We worked with the arborist on this. We wanted to make it as scientific as possible. If you look at this property back in 2005, so any native trees that have been around, anything of size, would have been around before 2005. Oak trees for sure would have been around before that. So we looked at this property in 2005 and said, okay, well, this is really what we're dealing with in terms of native trees that will have any real value ultimately to the neighbors, to the city. And then we know we're going to be planting 460 native trees as part of this project. So why don't we look really at those areas that are of most interest where we have a big concentration and go after those. So would you mind? All right, so then we segmented the whole thing after that. Then we really looked at the grading areas also. And we thought, okay, well, this is where we're going to be taking out as many trees as possible. So we're going to need to assess all this together into one more slide here, which shows how we picked the three sections, each section 10 acres, right? This is actually, so the wildlife study that we did with Dave Dawson, they also looked at the tree composition and tree species. And I was very happy to see that the two were jiving, and you all would have access to all of this. So basically, would you mind moving forward? Okay, section 1 and 2 are the most representative of the dense areas all around the top, say the top right, so northeast corner. The one that is not representative of that area is section 3. The section 3 has the most density of native trees and big trees. So we're talking 24-inch plus. So if you look at 20 acres, section 1 and 2, we have in total 11 trees that are over 24 inches. in size. One that is a majestic tree, 36 inch, and I will show you exactly where it's at. Now, so that's a total of 11 trees on 20 acres. Can you please move forward? So what you see here is the assessment that came back is that 15% of the trees on this property are actually native, non-invasive. Yes, non-invasive. So the 85 are invasive trees, 85%. And that is something that honestly I was surprised because we drove the property and we've seen a lot of cedars and all of that, but we didn't expect that kind of ratio. So I will leave you with this because so 2% is over 24-inch diameter. There's one majestic tree out of 575 trees that we count. So now, that what I just mentioned is representative of sections 1 and 2. But if you look at section 3 has 21 trees over 24 inches. But that is the highest concentration on the whole property. The wildlife study came back saying that the majority of this property was actually used for grazing at a certain point in time. So to give you an idea of where we're at. So each one of those that you see has exact GPS coordinates for each one of those trees. If there's any doubt, you're welcome to pick it up and go measure that. We didn't want to have anybody have any doubt about that. So can you please move forward, please? All right, so this here is a representation of those trees. If you look, there's a yellow one. That is where the majestic tree is. The others are, this is where grading is going to be very tricky. And honestly, we're going to try and save. We have about 5 or 6 trees that are at risk of being removed. One for sure will be removed. But if you look at this, we're doing everything in advance, so we're not coming back for more variances at Clattington. We just want to make sure that as you're approving, you know exactly what you're approving. It's that simple. So we know we're going way above and beyond, but that's the respect we'd like to pay to you and the property. And please move forward. So why are we requesting a tree survey, detailed tree survey on the grading area? Because we believe, honestly, we believe we already have enough sampling. But if you would like us to do a full-on tree survey, we will. And we will determine exactly what we're going to be taking out. And then we can determine how much we'll be paying. And honestly, at this point in time, if we were to say we're planting 460 trees that are 3 inch each, we have about 1,400 inches that come in as credit when it comes to paying the cash in lieu. That's the way it works, right? You have. Would you say that's mutual?
Do we allow 3 inch trees?
That's one of the.
That's one of the
To see.
6 inch.
Yeah. Yeah, 4 is in the mid, 4 is, and it's got to be a mix, 4 and 6, so they wouldn't be credited.
They will not be. Okay. Okay, so I mean, 4 and 6 gets super expensive for property this size, but this is something we can talk about. Ultimately, regardless, we believe based on what we have right now in terms of information, that we don't believe we will be exceeding the 300,000. But maybe this is a chance we'll take. Maybe we will not cap it and just take it from there. Take that risk. All right. Can you please move on? Yeah, let's keep on moving. Okay, yeah. So would you mind moving one more, please? So we've done an analysis of the sloping, and we thought we'd make it clear to you as to what you could potentially expect. So we did a cross section of this property where we believe the slopes are the most severe, and this is what it looks like. It does not look nearly as bad the way we went about the design and the way we went about making sure that we're smoothing the sloping and where we design the lots, we believe we'll be minimizing the cut and fill substantially. But can we tell you today exactly how much we're gonna be moving? No, that's why we're asking for carte blanche only where we're grading for the roads. That's it. Next, please. That's it. Let's go. So in terms of concessions, I wanted to just revisit what is it that the city is giving versus, and it's a partnership. We look at it as a partnership. What is it really that the city is giving, and what is it that we have been trying to do to balance that equation? So we went with lower density because you told us you wanted us to go with lower density. We went down to 1 acre lots. What does that mean? It means less lots, less sales revenues. Now also, what does it mean in terms of cost? Cost doesn't change much. If you have 500 lots or if you have 230 lots. The only thing that changes is the pipes going in. That's all we have to pay extra for. Grading is the same, tree removal, everything is pretty much the same. Putting the pipes in, everything is the same. It's only the branching out of the main lines that will have more. So in terms of development cost, we will have substantially higher development cost per lot with less sales revenues. We were able to balance that equation because we're a small group, we can do it. The big guys will not touch it, guaranteed. They would wait for other regulations, state law to come in to do their own thing. For us, it's simple. Like, honestly, we're coming in saying, look, we are working in good faith. We have gone and given you what you asked us for, which is 1 acre lots. We did not fight for that. And we come back and now we're getting nailed on technicalities. You wanted 1 acre lots? We gave you 1 acre lots. We're making less money? Yes, it's not your problem. We're happy to do that. That's the partnership we come forward with. We're helping with drainage. Hopefully we will help the flooding issue, the water quality that's going into the aquifer. We are dedicating more parkland than we're supposed to be. And we're dedicating a water facility that could potentially help the neighbors. So technicalities on one side, practicality on the other side. I invite you to just think about this. And honestly, that's all I have. Thank you.
So, because there is so much to discuss and for a lot of us have many questions, what I'd like to do instead of just kind of going randomly is actually go in order of how these are positioned. So like first we can talk about lot requirements and then to satisfy those questions, then we'll go on to parkland and so on and so forth. You guys are okay with that this evening?
That's a very organized way to do it.
Perfect. And then after that discussion, those comments is then when we'll open up for a public comment, and that can be as general as I would like that to be. We'll close, and then I think also as we discuss this, I know it's one large vote, but if there's a way, Dan, we can kind of break this up just so you can hear how we feel on every item. If it's possible to vote on every item and modifications requested in this PDD.
I mean, what do you mean internally? You're gonna have one recommendation.
So I guess if there's a way, say,
So-
if it is like an approval of conditions, like some of the conditions are based off of
You might
these
say a
individual
recommendation,
items.
We'd have to list.
and list the ones you want, the ones, leave off the ones you don't.
Okay, so it would just be discussion at that point.
And I think this comes back when we had our joint meeting between the city council and the planning and zoning the other day. When we passed this along to the city council, Brad wasn't here, but we did say maybe one of our representatives, maybe some of the representatives off the P&Z need to go to the city council meeting. So when the discussion comes forth, I see members of the city council out here, but they'll know exactly what we were discussing and why we were discussing that. So because there's going to be questions. I mean, there's obviously going to be questions when it gets kicked to the city council, and they're going to go, why did they think that? Or what did they consider this? So, for his benefit, for our benefit, the city's benefit, we're probably going to have to commit, have some people show up at the city council meeting when this goes forward.
I'm planning on being there.
I hope to be.
So let's first start with the zoning. So I heard you say in the very beginning of the presentation, now you're asking for R2, but you had a little bit of clarification there where you didn't want it to be completely R2 until a certain part of the process. Could you clarify that?
Yes, we have a very creative team, right? And I apologize for this. Honestly, we should have just kept the zoning exactly the way it was before, which is, just R2, R3 existing as it is. We just change the line, and that's it. It was just suggested that maybe we should consider just going with an R2 base, because then there's only one part of the code to ask for modifications to. Because otherwise, on this side here, you're asking for those kind of modifications. That's not great on this side here. And I get it. And I'm honestly it's not fair to ask for that. But there's that on one side. On the other side, we want to make sure that if the economy goes sideways and we're not able to build this and the prices go down and 1 acre lots will not sell, that at least we have something to fall back on, which is the existing zoning. That is the logic behind it. We're not getting too cute with this. We're just being 100% honest and transparent why we're asking. Now, what's the proper mechanism for it? We can.
Is that
how it's
kosher,
written?
Amy? I mean, is that how we would
It's
write
not
it?
normal.
What?
But theoretically, you have what I call a reverter that says if it doesn't develop the way they said, 1 acre lots over the whole thing, then they lose all the variance, they lose everything, and they go back to their zoning.
To base R2
with no variances at all.
which is what we're looking
So there's a way to do that.
So okay,
It's complex.
That sounds like a
So-
problem, not a heat problem.
yeah. So that brings up my issue. So that I'm glad you said that, because I was looking up that reverter clause. That's something that's done in Dallas. It's not done in Bulverde, I mean, it's done in Austin. It's not done in Bulverde. The question I have is from what I'm reading, you tell me if I'm wrong. If they get halfway through this, and this is what I fear, they get halfway through this and there's no water, then we have a piece of property that's sitting on our main highway that's along what we used to call our beautification area, that's scraped loose and halfway built, and they don't have water. TWC can't get them water. They can't get water. And it's sitting there for 5 years. In 10 years, I'm driving down the road and I'm going, what are they going to do with that? If I'm not wrong, we could have the power of eminent domain to go back and take that property if it's laid there for 5 years and not any further developed. So
It wouldn't be eminent domain.
what would it
They
call?
would lose their vesting
Okay.
after 5 years of abandonment. But if they got to the stage where they were building something, then that means they would have a plat file. And I would expect that second, that a plat was approved, any ability to refer be possible at that point.
Okay, that's my question. That was my idea.
Once we go through the plat,
Yeah.
we have to go through
Well,
a
they'll
plat.
probably drop in and just do one corner and build through it. So the first plat
Phase.
would be the one that you can't go back and point
Because I mean, it's a brilliant plan, and there's smart people doing it, smart people presenting it. But the problem I'm seeing is I fear for them just for the availability of water, and I'm like, well, what does that mean for our community? If they get stuck, then they're smart enough to figure it out. They'll figure something out. But what will we do?
I think that's a problem under any zoning regime.
Yeah.
If they come in and try to plant something in the R2 zone, that the R3 zone and the water is not available, they're in the name.
Yeah.
Oh. So.
Plus, there's a bonding mechanism also.
So we don't allow bonding by right. Bonding is another variance. We typically want to see all the infrastructure put in before the plat is reported.
And Danny, is the application currently written to be a reverter clause? Because reading it,
I mean,
sounded
there's
like
a
it's not.
suggestion of something along those lines, but it won't be fleshed out until after the commission. But basically, if that concept survives this recommendation, we'll flesh it out more with the attorneys and actually present the ordinance with the language on it. To council.
Okay.
But that notion is mentioned somewhere in the application.
Right.
Do you have any other questions regarding lot requirements? Or sorry, the zoning? Any zoning questions?
So again, just to be clear, this picture we're looking at right here, y'all are saying you're gonna take all 300 whatever acres and make all of it R3?
Only
It would be technically a PD, it wouldn't be R2 or R3.
Correct.
Right?
Right, it would be a PDD with R2 based on it, but it wouldn't include the multifamily or commercial zone you see on this side.
So it's all R2 except for these revisions.
Yes.
Honestly, we had the option obviously to buy all of it, including the multifamily, including the commercial, and we decided we will not touch the multifamily. We'll do what's right. We believe, simple people, we're small, we want to do it right. And hopefully you see that we're giving you the right communication for it. And we're very transparent, so.
Well, don't make a mistake about it. I think the multifamily is something that's needed in this area, but right now we just don't have the mechanism to have it happen. We don't have the right place, the right time, the right rules in place. And I don't know that we want multifamily here, but
That parcel's not under consideration.
yeah, that's right.
Let's move on to lot requirements. This is the restructuring of the sizing and things of that nature. Any questions regarding lot requirements, modifications?
Yeah, so I just at a base level, you said you had a plan for what R2, R3 would look like. How many houses or lots were there?
Close to 400.
You're going from
About
400, how many, 380?
Go down.
380, so you're going from 380 to 230 with this.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that was kind of on the record. So you're essentially asking for R3 lot requirements. Other than aspect ratio, most of it's R3.
Well, not.
And I know what you're doing.
That's an interesting way to look at it. Intellectually, I see where you're going with it. But practically, no. We have a typical lot size. Okay? If you look at any of these exhibits, you'll see on the top right is a typical lot size. A typical lot size is 135 feet wide and 375 feet deep. Okay? That makes for 1 acre. That is a typical lot size. So this is not representative of an R3 lot, would you say?
I hear you.
Okay, so why are we asking for the minimal on each one of those? Because we have lots that are shorter, fatter. Okay, and some of it is sloping like this and sloping like this on this side. So in order for us to be able to build something, we need to have some flexibility on side setbacks, mostly, honestly, right? That's it. If you look at the front setback, if we have a short lot, look at your top left and that cul-de-sac, okay? You see the one kind of in the middle, pointing towards the neighbors?
Yeah.
That guy is a big lot, but it's odd shaped. And it's also, you put the topo on top of that, and it gets very tricky. So the reason why we are asking for some accommodations, we're taking the worst case scenario. But again, the dimensions are there, we're not moving ahead with anything beside what you see. And each one of those lines has an actual dimension. It's available. I mean, we tried to put it, it's just too cumbersome to just put it all on one plan. But as part of the lot plan, if you were to go back, we have one exhibit. I believe it was back all the way up. Oh no, sorry, no. One going. This one. So this gives you an idea about what we're talking about. But we believe we will not go below 80, even in the front, even on cul-de-sacs. But when you go to engineering planning, like final construction plans, and things need to change, we don't want to be back in front of you again and again. We thought, give us some flexibility. We know what it looks like. just allow us a little bit of a change as we're doing the construction planning, the detailed construction planning for the planning, so that we're not showing up here all the, oh, we need this variance, oh, we need that variance. We'd like to look at this more from a global perspective and say, look, we're all adults here. Let's not play games with each other. It's 1 acre lot. That's it. You can hold us to that. Why do you need any more? Like, are we going to build anything that's going to be unsellable? No. Right? It's really our risk if we were to go with something that doesn't sell. So that's a business conversation, more so than a technical conversation. If you know there are constraints, the constraint is 1 acre. Samir, you stick within 1 acre. 1 acre and above. We're giving you that.
How many lots are you know how many are gonna deviate from that?
Honestly, we
It would
don't
be
until
less than
construction.
It would be less than the current code of 1.
It's mostly going to be on those funky, like, cul-de-sacs and those.
So 80.
I believe 80. I believe 80.
That's what it looked like. I'm just trying to get it.
I believe 80 honestly would be our minimum. That's why we're saying 80. Right. So.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I'm just trying to.
And how do you calculate the width on something like this? Right. There's like formulas, intricate formulas. We thought we'd like to simplify because we're simple people. So you know what? At 40 feet setback from the front, we would like to see 80 feet width, and then we keep. Again, we can push back a little bit. However, you need to remember that we're also creating a 100-foot buffer with Bulverde Hills, right? So, in respect for the neighbors, because that's what we heard, we wanted to make sure. Now, by doing that, we're also shrinking that thing even more, right? So we're gonna have lots where we're very tight in the way we're gonna position structures, and that is why, honestly, we just don't want to come back to you guys and say, you know, you have the plan, you have the dimensions. We're not hiding anything. We're not saying, oh, we want it carte blanche. This is what it's gonna look like. You know, like it's gonna be 80. We can go to 80 anytime we want. That's not the case.
Any other questions regarding lot requirements? As we move on to parkland dedication. Any questions regarding?
There is no variance on that. We're actually exceeding.
Well, there is variance because you're not allowed to split it. The way it is, you're not allowed to do riparian buffer land as part.
I know, but excluding riparian buffer, they have the park requirements.
There's a road right in the middle. Do you have the calculation?
It's 3.8 contiguous uninterrupted acres. Right here.
Yeah, and we believe that one side is actually 3.8 or close to 4. But you know what? I will make sure that's the case. Okay. If we have to move the road a tiny bit for you guys, we'll do that.
Well, we need to be sure because they're going to approve that.
Well, 3.85. Just put it minimum 3.85.
We'll stick
it. Yeah.
So I think it's.
So basically, no.
When we vote, we take that out.
Yep.
All right.
Let's just pull that out.
That's what I'm saying. I just want to make
We
sure.
should have done that. Everything was going so fast.
Yeah.
We should have just taken it out.
I want to ask.
Yeah.
All right, next one, cut, fill, and disturbance within steep slope areas,
Limited to grading. That's it.
pulling the grading
So
areas.
that means along the roads, you're gonna be cutting back 135 feet on that gray area.
No, we're going to be cutting. So it's the right of way, and because of the sloping, we need to be able to make sure that we're meeting the grading requirements, the angles. It's almost like a catch-22. If you need to meet the grading requirements, you can't have a road like this, right? But to have a road that is meeting the grade requirements, you need to be cutting and filling, right? So we're limiting remember, cutting and filling is extremely expensive. Not only do you guys want to minimize it, we want to minimize it as much as possible. Like honestly, we want to optimize as much, but we started optimizing cut and fill from the first day we held the pen to start, okay, let's follow the contours, because cost is very, very, very important in this particular case because of the low density we're working with. We cannot afford to mess around with going up in our cost, and cut and fill is cost, guaranteed. The more you cut, the more you fill, the more you're paying. We cannot afford that. We really can't. We have got to minimize cut and fill to the end. We're asking for carte blanche. carte blanche within, to make sure just so like we're not back here, just like those guys were saying, oh, well, we need a little bit more here, a little bit less here. But you can count on us being as diligent as possible in that area, because every time we're not, it's costing us money. You guys will not be paying anything in that space.
I know you said you didn't have the information at the time, but if you had a rough estimate of the amount of kind of fill from that graph that you did, are we looking at the 20s? Are we looking in the 30s? Are we looking in the teens of feet?
Can you clarify your question on
What's the biggest?
quantity?
What's the biggest cut and the biggest fill?
I don't have that in. If we go to the exhibits,
G.
the one with the trees, yeah, all the way at the end. That it's a cross section.
Cross section.
Yeah. Go up here.
It's deep.
Going all the way to the right. Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, so I think I'm just going to estimate, and I'm going to estimate high. That fill may be up to 12 feet, maybe 14, and that's an estimation. And it's, if we go back left, the idea is it's contained within, I don't know if this covers it, but contained within that buffer that you see there. And so you can see, and that was kind of the idea of that cross section is everything outside of that buffer. The idea is to leave that alone and conserve that area. And so I don't know if that exhibit does a great job to the right. Go to the right one more. Yeah, that does a great job. But there's areas where you see, basically the sets of walls and staggering, just kind of like the conversation earlier, where they're creating walls rather than just cutting through everything. That's the idea. Is we're going to stagger and create walls to limit the fill and limit the encroachment.
So let me quote you. You're going to say no more than 14 feet.
Okay. I don't know the answer on that. If you need an answer, I mean, we can.
Okay, well,
we
you
can
just
go
said,
up.
you just said on the high side it would be 12 feet, maybe 14. So I was going to say, okay, we're going to stay on the high side with you. So no more than 16 feet or no more than 20 feet.
You don't like the carte blanche?
No, I don't like the carte
I'd
blanche.
rather you come back.
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't like the carte blanche.
What about we can leave this as maybe as part of the recommendation, something we will look at more closely when we go to council. If you'd like us to, because generally this kind of thing happens at planning time, right? When like the construction plans are being, so yeah. So we're happy to, like we've done a lot of work to estimate as much as possible. But do we want to say, well, no more than 16, but we get to a point where we're going to have to cut a whole bunch of trees to keep to that, right? Like, so it's a balance, and our hope is that you give us some flexibility so that we are able to say, hey, we're going to save so many trees, we're not going to grade here, we have to cut a little bit more here. So if you want to limit us to, I don't know, what would be?
I think 14 feet is fair, and I think to do this, you need a detailed grading construction plan. Yeah. We're not going to know the exact answer. This is a huge 330-acre site. To do a mass grading plan is tens of thousands of dollars. So I don't know that answer. We did a few cross sections, and I quoted it last time what the number is on the max walls. Last time we were here a month ago, and I think it was 14 feet. So that's why I'm coming up with that answer. But yeah, the idea is there is a double-edged sword. It's either more fill and higher walls or less trees, and so we're trying to optimize that.
I think if you were to give us enough leeway, I don't know, give us the 20. We don't want to do that. It costs us a lot of money to do 20 feet. I'll tell you that. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. But if we have to do it for any reason, at least we will have that option, knowing that this is not what we want.
And what is the opposition to coming back when you do have the information to ask for the exact variance?
Because
that the
that's,
zoning
I think
board-
that's, you need a detailed grading plan for the entire site,
I
which
mean,
is,
later down the road,
that's- oh,
right,
that's
during planning, exactly,
Yeah,
but
of course.
why not come back at that time? Like, why is there opposition to getting it now rather than later?
Well, we prefer to be clear on what we're working with in terms of risk, right? So we go through all this effort, and we get to a point where we come to you and say, no, we don't like that. No, what do we do? Right? So if we need to mitigate our risk at the same time as we're doing all the stuff to get financing, honestly, we need to go to the bank and say, well, what's your risk? Our risk is we go through this whole process, we get to a point of planning, and they decide they don't like our developers. Okay then. So that's why we're asking for the leeway, because we must, you can imagine how much money is being paid here. It's a big, big project. We cannot afford to increase our risk. We already have the risk to deal with in terms of like the economy, in terms of the market, in terms of cost of construction, in terms of the ASP, where is it gonna land here in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So to add one more uncertainty when we can nip it right now would be extremely helpful to just say, you know what, you give us up to 16, and then you guys work with it. Now, if we need something more at that point in time, we come and we fight just for that.
Yeah, so that was also some of my question on all that stuff is giving carte blanche to developers is generally
not a good thing.
And I'm not saying that you're gonna do something bad, right?
Fair.
At all. It's just, right, we'd rather say, okay, we can get comfortable with X, and if you do need to come back, then come back, right?
Yep.
But hopefully, that then becomes a 5% problem, not a 100% problem,
Yep.
because we're not saying no to all of
I think if you give us the 16, we'd be very comfortable with
I
that.
think I think personally, I can't give you carte blanche, but I could probably come up with a number that I think we can both live with.
That's good. Yeah, we're good with that.
Might be agreeable. And then again, yeah, you might have to come back for 5% of it at plotting time, and, you know, if all this comes, you know, if this all looks good, then I think that's gonna be an easier conversation.
I appreciate that.
I mean, it's just common sense. I mean, if you were gonna give your kid a budget, to go buy a car, you know, you wouldn't just give them carte blanche, say go buy a car. You could do that, you know? So you're gonna have to have limits for both of you, just to have a generalized understanding. And it's not that, by no means that there anything here except we have to justify ourselves. You know, if something goes wrong and some citizen knocks on my door and says, "You were the idiot that let the guy build the 50-foot, you know, bluff where my kid fell off and that, you know, broke his head open." No, so yeah, we don't want to give you carte blanche, but you know, at the same time, you don't want to overshoot your budget either. We need something we can both work on, and you know, that's why I was asking specifics: 12 feet, 14 feet, you know, 16 feet. I mean, we just need a number.
That's fair. That's fair to ask. And I think, I hope you also feel it's fair that we also come a little bit on the conservative side.
Well, no, I mean, we understand that.
Any other questions regarding cut and fill? No? All right, let's get into street geometry requirements. Questions on this one?
Okay, just before I get to step up, because I've got a problem right here that I've identified on this. I've had a couple of situations in my life where we've had to drive. I worked part of my way through school as an EMT paramedic. I had a couple of situations in my life where we've had fire trucks in the middle of the street and couldn't get the ambulance around the fire truck to get to the situation where we needed to be on the other side. And when you start saying, okay, let's eliminate the shoulder, okay, then let's reduce the minimum width on the pavement, okay, well, you know, we're in a rural environment. They pull the fire truck up. They're going to pull the fire truck up in the middle of the highway, you know, run the hoses or run the ladder or wherever. And there's nowhere for an ambulance or a citizen to get around it. Sheriff's department, the guy over on the other side is shooting people at, you know, this house is on fire and the sheriff can't get there. So I really have a problem with when we start talking about reducing our pavement width and doing away with our shoulder requirements. I also believe that anybody that thinks that anybody's going to do 30 miles an hour in Blue Verde is crazy. So, you know, so I think that's just a joke to say we're going to reduce it from 30 to 25. I mean, I do understand that there's costs involved all the way around, but when Mitchell Ranch came here, presented their program, they wanted to put a nice little winding street through their small subdivision, and we told them, no, you gotta have a straight line, straight shot, so the emergency vehicles can get in and out. So as far as I'm concerned, I would just take all the street geometry and say out of hand, no. That's just me.
Agreed.
I was thinking the
Don't we
same
have a
thing.
bigger fire truck now? than we Used to have.
I can almost guarantee you brought fire department, PD, anyone from those departments in here and asked them.
Right.
About what you just did, they're gonna support what you just did.
Yeah,
Yeah, you just don't know.
is the 60 foot really garbage that we want 60 foot right away?
Yes, again,
Why do we want 60 foot right of ways in rural connectors? Is Bardage is correct,
mostly.
right? Just to be able to serve, have serviceable Bardage.
So one thing that you were forgetting about, these are private homes.
So the city's never, we've always held the private roads to our standards. Because there's always a possibility that I've seen neighborhoods petitioning the city to take them over in other cities before. And we don't want part of our citizens living in potentially dangerous situations with worse service level than the rest. It's a historical perspective.
I'll go one more on that. Okay, we'll give this to you. These are private roads. I want an agreement that says that nobody in this subdivision ever gets a fire truck out of the city of Bulverde or a police department out of the city of Bulverde. Because
So
it's
what
private
would be,
roads.
what would be something you would be comfortable with that you?
I'm comfortable with our present standards.
The 60 foot?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're there for a reason. They're there for public safety, and I don't see any reason to modify that.
I would say they're not, I wouldn't consider them over-engineered, you know, they're at the minimums where the crash data and everything has presented itself at this time. And I feel as though the ask is asking for the very bare minimum to squeak by. And understand there's other considerations like you were talking about earlier, where you change one thing and impact something
Yeah,
else.
well, let me tell you, maybe we can.
Now as well.
Okay, how about this? Let me tell you the reason behind it.
Okay.
It's the size of the lots, right? We needed to maintain the 1 acre lot.
No, I understand. It's a real tight area.
Yeah,
Real
so, and honestly, like, we were like so that's where we ended up with it. I mean, we want wider roads too. I mean, at least like shoulder,
So it
put
would
a lot of
be
shoulder.
the lots are
So
wider.
if you allow us, for instance, to go maybe like 5% below the, the acreage, say, you know what, instead of 1 acre, would be like, but the issue with that also, just so you know, and we would not increase, you can cap the number of lots. Say, you know what, 2/3 is all you're getting, right? We're good with that, okay. So, but also the biggest issue though is the OSSF.
Yeah,
They're not gonna approve anything less. So this is where the dilemma is. I mean, you look at that. Now, maybe we can claim some kind of a easement on the front of these lots, where you have.
The roads are partially built on private property.
No.
I'm not sure I understand what you're.
So,
Like, is there a mechanism for us?
so
But the shoulder's an easement.
So, I guess.
I mean,
So,
I mean, you could put fewer lots in that property and there you go.
Yeah,
but that would not be affordable.
but he's here to maximize profit, and which is good. And he's good. And he's doing his.
No, it's not about maximizing profit. Honestly, it's
No,
to be able
he's
to
doing his job. That's good.
It's to be able to afford to do this at 230 lots.
Right.
For all the costs that come per lot. I mean, this is where, I mean, if we were to go down to 200, we walk. We cannot do this. There's no way.
So, okay, I'm gonna just ask generally. What, you have a problem, you guys have a problem with road construction, correct?
Yeah, the width.
The width of the road,
Yeah.
right? The center line radius of the road?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have a problem, why is there a problem with the right of way? So the right of way is 60 feet and the road is 22 feet wide.
Okay.
So he's gotta have, so that's what he's saying, right? And that's what I'm taking, right? I agree, he wants to reduce it by 2 feet, I agree, but we should probably keep that safe. The reason I asked the question is, most of the time you're trying to do garbage drainage, that's why you have a 60-foot right of way, most of the time.
Yeah.
Right? And so,
I mean, with that drainage would be impacted by less. The barges would have to be deeper,
right, it has to be deeper, or you have to put in close storm sewer to do it.
which Yeah, I mean.
right?
Sewer,
Right?
where's anything else we thought from a financial? Right, yeah,
But I'm just saying, so, I mean, those are the two options you probably have is either put some storm sewer in to get away with it, and we reduce the right of way width, right? But they still have to maintain the roadway standard, or we just say, hey, no, you're gonna do bar dishes, we're gonna do this. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I think there's a way to reduce the right of way width, but there's also a way to still keep the road standard and still.
Would you allow us just 50 feet and we can increase if we were to go to 50 feet and increase the pavement width, so that we would have, say, go up to like, I don't know, pavement would be like 25 feet, right? We leave 12 on each side, 12 and a half on each side, we should be good to go.
With 4 foot shoulders.
He's asking for no shoulders.
Yeah.
Oh, he's asking for.
Yeah, he's asking to eliminate.
Oh,
Yeah, well,
he's saying going to 20, he's saying going to 25, so you're getting, no, you're not getting 4 feet out of that.
Right. Like Ashley said, the city's drawn up a group of requirements, regulations, minimum set of requirements, and that's what they are, the minimum set of requirements. I mean, if he came in and wanted to say that, gee, he didn't want a 60-foot right of way, he wanted an 80-foot right of way, we wouldn't have any problem giving him that because it exceeds the minimum, but we don't want to go below our minimum. We have a reason for having our minimum, the public safety issue.
So the the next classification is a 50-foot right of way.
Yeah.
For the person, 30-foot right.
Yeah.
With the urban one, that's 40 or something, isn't it? 44 feet?
No, well, it's 44 feet per collector. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, okay, do you want 60 and 22, or do you want 50 and 30?
We can do anything. I mean, you know,
that's not my problem. It's not gonna be good, I know. So I'm just saying, is there a way to work within this, or is it just, you know, hey, this is just exactly what I want to do?
I mean, yeah, I'm not.
So I guess my point is, if he's willing to do a wider road, he's still got to.
He's not willing to do a wider road. He's asking to do less than what we want.
No, he just said he'd be 25 feet.
Yeah.
Oh, he'll do 25 feet.
25-foot road would be a 50-foot right of way. But, and if he's got to put storm sewer in, he's got to put storm sewer in.
Okay.
That's what it shows.
Okay, I'll do that. Yeah, I'm sorry, I misunderstood that.
I don't know the implications.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not
That's
100%
fair.
comfortable.
And drainage is a huge.
No, I know it is, for sure.
And I will just say, I know that at the time of, whenever construction plans go out, there will be a detailed drainage evaluation of all the garbage and storm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's the state requirement. So.
And that's normally.
He doesn't know the integrations of the cost of that.
That's when we
yet,
have this
so
request.
That's a risk that you would be taking on that, but as for the drainage analysis, that will be reviewed by you guys.
Yeah.
I think for me, I want to go back to the comment before that you'd made of saying a maximum number of lots, but being flexible on the acreage.
We can't because of.
But we can't.
Yeah, that's not
OSSF.
the state, sewer rules.
So go to those under 1 acre. we have to
Yeah,
do that.
Yeah, you can't do one.
No, the TCEQ requirements for OSSF is 0.5. Correct, yeah, it's Comal County has an issue with the 0.5 that TCEQ has set as a minimum. And Comal County is actually they're the ones who would approve.
Correct.
Right, so,
Yeah, we don't.
so we don't want to mess with that. So that's why,
So you have to have 1 acre.
yeah, we have to have, that's where the constraint is. And if we were to start shrinking. Yes, I know we can fit, likely we can shave off a little bit and still be good on the majority of the lots, but we're gonna be losing some lots to like we have the 60-foot right away, we're gonna be losing some lots, quite a few.
I think for the safety of the members in that neighborhood, we probably should, but any other questions regarding street geometry?
Same issues.
Okay, next one, tree survey removal
Sorry,
and,
did we agree to anything on that?
no, so
No,
we're
we're
only
When you moved on, I'm like, oh, yeah.
Been a long time, no one would comment
Okay, fair
really
enough.
again,
I want to say one more thing, you know,
if we do go down to the 50-foot right of way and we do the drainage analysis, which is, it has to be done, and there's, areas where there's excessive drainage, bigger drainage areas where we need a little bit more bar ditch rather than a storm drain. Storm drain might have to be the answer at some locations, but in some locations adjoining the existing right of way have drainage easements for the larger bar ditches that will be required. So that's a potential option as well.
I think we're setting ourselves up to be right back here asking for variance again, because the solution's either gonna be too expensive.
Or, yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
Those are the most likely outcomes.
Yes.
You think you think by giving a variance right now, we're saying, I mean,
No, he's saying if we modify it from what he's asking for, something in the middle.
okay, yeah, okay,
That would be an engineered solution.
yeah,
Whether it's financially viable,
Right.
whether it's acceptable to the city, I don't.
no, I understand that. I understand what you're saying.
All right, tree survey, removal, and mitigation, discussion and questions.
I do not think that the tree should be removed in the slope area, and I think that's our ordinance. And I don't like just an open-ended, taking the trees out. And ash junipers are not invasive species, they're native to Texas.
They're native,
People
but-
just don't like them.
It's so folks. Suppose I'm not an arborist, that's what I do. That's why they call them invasive. They're actually, they are native.
Just by landowners and ranchers think they're invasive. But it's the only tree that the golden chief warbler will nest. So they're
That was
important.
actually going to be something I was going to bring up as well, because in your presentation, you had stated there is no critical habitat for any critically endangered, species, but there was in the very conclusion. So I had my first question is that they're not talking about the golden chief warbler, because I know that they need the mature ash junipers to live in it. So I was surprised it wasn't mentioned until the very end in the conclusion. And all it said was it has the attributes or something of that nature for it to be a habitat, but then didn't really talk about it.
It's not identified as a habitat.
But I've
but
heard
it has the
people
potential.
at that time of year.
We're not
that
taking out all the
We're
juniper
not in
ash.
the golden chief warbler area.
Now, they found one there, probably bring the whole thing.
Yeah, bring the whole Well, there's a designated area, there's places that they can found that. So like out by Coliseum, you can't take trees down between, I don't remember the dates, like out towards that side, you can't take them down. Like just period, because it is a protected area. I don't know that we're in that protected area.
But we do have,
Here, I
I
haven't looked at the map.
think it's the main that
We are.
will do those, that it's the
We are not.
mature ash juniper trees.
But I'll say, we have no protections for ash.
You can still take them down as long as it's not in their nesting time, and you have to be in a designated area in order to have, like, in order to
And that's
have
what
them be protected during that time. But basically, so what happens over on 35 is they do these big subdivisions. As soon as that date goes, they go cut the trees down. They wait until they're out of the window. Kind of like Oakville, right? Like don't prune between certain times, same kind of. Just-
Sadly.
Yeah.
But again, those trees, as Danny mentioned, they're not protected by the code.
I understand.
You still have to have a permit to take them down.
We are not.
I'm just gonna say, it's been a big source of contention.
So you mentioned during your presentation that you would be okay with not capping the 300,000.
You know what, ideally we'd like to contain our risk, right? And if, believe, 300,000 would be honestly, probably the most we would be able to pay on this project. And we thought, if we can be just forthcoming with you based on all the other expenses, and we have a lot of variable expenses that we need to be accounting for. We just wanted to contain that risk. And we believe, we're doing everything we can to keep trees. Again, trees sell.
Okay.
People like trees. They do.
I think that you're being very fair. I'm going to say that, but I'm going to give you something else. I'm going to ask you a question. What year did you purchase this property?
We have it under contract.
Oh, you have it under contract? Yes. Okay, so what year did you get the option on it? What year did you put it under contract?
Last year.
Last year, okay, all right. So.
And we have, sorry, under contract with hard money.
Right, exactly.
Okay, it's important.
No, that's fair, and that's
Because
fair.
we're serious about it, and we've been spending a lot of money.
No, I just didn't wanna hear you complaining about the cost if you bought it in 2012 when all our houses were worth $100,000. So, but you did, you bought it at the height of the value, and so you do have money invested in it, and I appreciate that.
We're paying.
Yeah.
For this property, I'll tell you, the sellers are not selling it as an R2.
No.
Okay, and the tree removal request is kind of in that, where we see around the roads, that right of way area, right? It's not extending past that area.
Correct.
And how many acres would you estimate that is? Because I know you said in the application you have 54 acres of preserved open space, so would it be like 275, or is it be less than that?
In terms of, I'm sorry.
Sorry, in terms of like how many acres is the actual like tree removal area?
So if you follow, how many acres? Area. Would it be 1 quarter? Yeah, it should not, honestly, it should not be more than like 70 acres.
Okay.
Or 70 or 80, but don't quote me. I'm an engineer, but I'm not that smart.
I was just doing some math earlier,
Yeah.
trying to see if.
Probably more, honestly. I don't know. We'll have to calculate that for you.
And
Did you want to just, but this is when you limit, again, like, when you're limiting to the grading area, then it's well defined, right? So anything else, we'll have to come back to you and say, you know what, we need a variance on that.
And your ask is, so your ask right now is grading areas, driveways, and building areas. But when you were here before, you mentioned the only build out, not up. So are you gonna be leaving the trees that are on the lot in order for the person who's buying the property to come forward? So we don't know the building areas at this time.
We do not know that.
Okay, so.
And some people
really
may want
it's
like
just the
1
grading
floor,
area.
some people may want 2 floors. So it's that's why we need some flexibility.
Okay. So I think that, because the ask in the application is grading area, driveways, and building area, correct?
Correct.
But we don't know driveways and building area, so you're okay if we just say
Entire
grading?
zone, wasn't it within the 130 feet off the right of way, or did I? 8.
Mm-hmm.
8.
170.
It's 175.
Right, so it's not just specific areas, it's the whole zone, that whole disturbance zone.
Yeah, but it's
Yes.
county is the problem on
Right,
that, right?
but then it was no tree protection in that area and no survey in exchange for 300,000.
No, we
No,
will
they would do
survey
survey.
that area. That's the area we will actually survey. The area where we're
Survey.
even gonna be cutting.
But they want to cap it at 300.
So they're gonna do the survey anyway, but they're gonna, it's almost a dead set match that it's gonna be more than that, so you're almost wasting the money on the survey.
So I was actually going to ask you, will you pay the 300 plus the survey? Well, I was kind of like, why are we doing one? We're just
You know what, actually, honestly, we wanted to come back. We thought, already our request was like, wow, the modifications come in and say, no tree survey would have been, that's the ideal situation, honestly, where we know what it is. Well, we know what it is, right? We all know, but if this is how you guys feel, it's exactly how we feel. That it's absolutely, there's no reason for a survey in this case.
And the only reason it's for a survey is because you have up to 300,000. If you just said 300,000, it wouldn't matter.
I don't see the point,
Okay, how about this? We have a
$2
thousand, that's good.
million for mediation, but he's already authorized a cap of 300,000 and nothing accomplished.
Right,
Yeah.
That's
So why
what-
don't we do this then? Why don't we just set it at 300? And
What was the cost of your tree survey?
honestly, we don't know yet. We got some, depending if you guys approve.
When you said that 300 acres would be roughly 200,000, I'm gonna assume if it's 70 acres, it's gotta be at least 80. About 70 to 80, there's economies of scale there, I'm sure, but I don't know.
Well, and I just don't agree with them wholesale scalping all along the
Well,
Well, we're gonna be,
he's not wrong when he says that cutting into the earth is very expensive. So they're gonna try and limit that as much as possible, because earthwork will eat you alive.
They can take all the trees out. and start cutting.
So that's my thing is, I don't know.
Well, and I'll also point out, we don't know that $300,000 is, it could be several orders of magnitude more than that.
No, I agree.
And that is why we wanted to just do the survey, honestly, and say, you know what, it's a cap, but, I mean, we've already done some preliminary. You have an idea what the property looks like. You have an idea, you know, it was a grazing area back in 2005, majority of it was open.
Right.
There was no trees. So, you know, I mean, it's not like we're coming in with an absolute, you know, pie in the sky, that's what we're asking for. I think you would have
pretty decent good math on your risk, so you at least have an idea of the risk.
Yeah.
I think it's not just the mass. We wanted to put ourselves in your shoes and say, is this a fair ask? And honestly, we believe it's a fair ask. That's why we upped it from 400 to 300.
Not going in blind, the kind of
It's
idea.
also having the replacements though too,
Yeah,
at 2 lot per
Two per
acre,
lot.
3 inches,
Yeah.
so. Which I'm okay with, I mean, the smaller diameters have more like.
I'd rather have,
than-
well, you know, if you're gonna say, hey, you want 12 inches per lot, then it's 4 trees per lot.
Well, and smaller trees gonna require less water,
Exactly.
so it's gonna be.
So, I think my big problem with this is, you know, correct me if I'm reading this wrong. Not that you would, but you could take out every tree in this area the way this is.
And now, why would I want to?
I hear you. I said that.
Well, that's what, I mean,
But
that's
let's
what
go back to
project.
the let's go back to the carte blanche thing, you know,
Yeah,
we need to have an
But do you
understanding.
think I would be able to sell lots that don't have trees on them?
Yes, absolutely.
That's not
You can sell ice to Eskimos.
That's-
I don't think
That's not what.
Yeah,
This stays with the property.
Not
Yeah,
unless
so-
we do the referral.
No, but if they option it out, the PDD still stays with the property, so.
I
This
think
is,
we could.
not that I don't believe you,
I think
but
we could say that it does.
No.
I don't
We
think
can take to certain things like the plat. Like they keep the current R3, R2 until the first plat under this plan's filed and then that's one. But they could sell it to someone else.
who could come
Who
in.
could inherit those rights and then do it.
This is what I'm saying. So I'm not saying, we've had several issues with this where somebody comes in and we think they are acting in good faith, but it stays with the property, not with you. So if you leave and somebody else, right, you option it out and they do sell it to, you know, and they do something else and they try to do this, they can come in and just quit. I don't know why they would, I agree with you, but I think that's where my big hang up is.
So what's the worst case scenario, in your opinion?
All the trees are gone.
all three.
Yeah,
All the trees within that space, like within that 175 is what you're saying.
Or more, but yes, yeah, if that's the allowed.
And that's happened here before.
It does.
Yeah.
Several times.
So that's why we're a little obviously jaded by that.
So how can we
I need to think-
reassure you guys? What's
I need
something
to
like a
I need to think through that.
I think not having the cap, and I understand that, but it then prevents if someone else comes in later to them to hopefully be.
Because if
a
they
little
do
more
go clear cut,
cautious.
it's gonna be $5 million for them with clear cut. And
Okay.
I'd rather have.
How about this? Can we just like put this as some kind of a condition around it, allow us a chance to just do some more calculations for the council meeting? And maybe this is something.
We'll make our recommendation. Council doesn't have to follow our recommendation. So, yeah, I mean, we'll probably recommend whatever we're gonna recommend. If you can present stuff to them to sway them on what we recommended, I think that's.
Yeah, I'm expecting the board's gonna make a recommendation tonight. And then we'll be on.
Because I think you want to get this to council, like you said, if you're hearing our concerns, if you bring that to them, then they can evaluate it.
Well, and I think we're doing the right thing in hashing through this, because I think the council made it clear to us the other night, and they didn't want to have to redo everything that we do, you know? Right, Danny?
So Alan has an idea. Maybe we can look at making sure that we're preserving a certain percentage within the grading area of the trees of 24-inch plus. Does that make you more comfortable with that setup? So that we don't have a carte blanche like clearing everything.
it makes me more comfortable, but I think I would rather increase the cap to then make you have the choice when you come across that 24-inch tree to decide
Yeah,
to cut it down or not.
Okay, so if we were to increase the cap with no survey, would that be acceptable to you
Then
guys?
Well, then
we
there's no
wouldn't
decision
know.
to be made.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But I'm guarantee you're gonna.
Yeah.
No matter what we raise it to, unless it's well over $1 million or more.
You think that's what it is?
I think it's that it's the truth, yes. We can't prove it, but I suspect it.
So when I did the math on it, this is before I saw the pictures of the satellite imaging to where there was only like pockets of trees. So I took your assumptions of the 20 acres that were surveyed and then, applied it across the whole acreage, which that is a vast overestimation looking at the actual satellite imaging. From that, your fee in lieu, and this again, it's a very high estimate, was over $1 million. And
Well, and I want
plus,
to point out, from what I saw, they started counting at 9 inches. And we start counting at 6 inches. So,
and what I did as well, so they didn't have anything within their packet that I saw that was under the 24 inches. We only saw over 24 inches in the number of trees.
there's a chart
they
that
go
goes
down.
down to 9 inch trees.
Okay. I didn't,
Yeah.
I didn't see that. So I estimated them like over, trying to keep it even. But again, that was at over $1 million. Like, so that's a very high
And that's fair. I mean, and if you look,
estimation.
yeah, if you look at that estimate, and if you have the imagery, and if you put yourself in our shoes, where we've given so much already that we have, if you look at, going from 380 lots to 30, I mean, how much was that worth to us? And this is something that you guys may want to balance too. We cannot come in and being squeezed here and being squeezed there when we've already given like such a huge, massive pot. We're just asking for your consideration and allowing us to just make this project work. We're not greedy, we're small, and even much smaller percentage than the other guys will still make good money. But you want the kind of developers that we are, but we got to be able to make some money because of the risk. Just reserve that. That's why we're saying, we'll give you maybe 350 with no survey, good to go. That's the cap. No survey, we move on. We'll make sure that we don't have more than, we can cap 10%. Make sure that we're keeping 10% of the trees.
Well, that's why I think if the limits were higher for both the inches of being replanted and also the cap, it then gives you the freedom to make the choice of, do I want to cut down the 24-inch tree or not? Whereas now if we lower it, you have the ability to say, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it, or whoever comes later, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it so I don't have to pay for it. But if we have a higher cap or no cap, then you have to make that choice per tree, and that's what we would prefer. Does that make sense?
So are we saying then, okay, no cap, no survey?
We don't know yet. We're going to discuss
We're
later.
just, that wouldn't work. Yeah, you can't do that.
Zero.
So, this is your question. Honestly, we're not deciding anything right here at this moment.
Fair enough.
It's strictly discussion.
Tim, you think it's $1 million and 25%?
I think that's possible.
But yeah.
But
you
yeah,
might have
because we're going to start counting at 6-inch trees.
Right.
And you can see, even from the 2005, there's a ton of trees out there that are big enough now.
I just want to make sure you weren't saying it was $1 million total. And then, okay. All right. Yep.
No, yeah, it's expensive.
No.
I mean, this kind of densely wooded properties, it's gonna have a high.
And this is where we need consideration. Like, we can't develop this without a cap. Like, honestly, we can't. I mean, we come back and $1 million, we just won't do it. Like, we have to have certainty around our numbers. The bank will not finance us without certainty. Guaranteed. They will not. And there will be no project. The more we believe we're giving up a lot. I hope you guys work with us to help us tighten up our numbers so the bankers can say, yep, you know what, we're good. If we have loose ends, a whole bunch of them, it's not going to work.
Any other questions regarding tree removal at this time? Right, and the last one, and then we'll get the public comment, and then we'll discuss more, is the riparian buffer.
Yes.
Any questions on the riparian buffer?
think that we should be able to build into the riparian buffer in this. I think that that's a restriction that's in place for safety for the people in the neighborhood, the people downstream, and for erosion of the property that's below. And also, again, I know that in my house, I can't do anything in my riparian buffer. I don't know why we should let a developer do the same.
The only places where we're encroaching on the riparian buffer are at roadway crossings.
Well, can I ask clarification on that? Because the map you have on there shows at least one lot substantially encumbered by a riparian buffer. So maybe I'm looking at it wrong. Keep going until we find it. This lot right here is almost 50% in there. These two lots are.
Well, okay, so this one, so the one that's on the bottom of that V, that's at the crossing. So it's at the crossings.
I mean, that lot would be unbuildable if there wasn't construction inside the riparian. With the setbacks and everything else, there's nowhere to put a home site. And that one, I don't know that the others are that challenging, but that one, I think so.
These will be outside of the, all the other ones were outside of the, that grading limits that's on the other.
You're not expecting any building outside the grading limit and after the home construction?
I mean, we can just have a blanket statement that we cannot build within the riparian buffer.
I mean, it's gonna kill that, it looks to me it's gonna kill that lot.
Yeah, and we may be able to just move the lines, you're right. Absolutely. I'm just looking at it, and I actually did see it. It was very late at night, and I forgot to ask about it. So, but I believe those lots right there. There's the one lot next to it that is pretty fat. I think we could potentially narrow it a little bit, squeeze a little bit, and we'll be able to stay within the 1 acre. I believe we can take that because they will not be concerned.
Entrance to the lot, it's gonna have to be here, and then they're gonna have to build a house on a horseshoe or something.
So roads are already allowed to transgress the riparian buffer. That's not a variance.
So all we're asking for is you want to be able to build a detention facility with the riparian buffer.
Well, it's gonna encroach, remember, riparian buffers have to be included in their own lot, separate from the private lots. But if they do that, several of these lots are gonna drop on 1 acre.
No, I get that. Yeah.
Why they're asking for that portion of it. Although I'm assuming we'd have a riparian buffer easement at a minimum there, which
So that's always gonna be my question.
but it's gonna sink at least one of them.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So and then the second ask is to build the stormwater detention.
The stormwater and
Or the
also
water
they get part of the parkland originally showed in a riparian buffer, but I think we're gonna get rid of that. Maybe.
No, I think it's still there.
Okay.
They want
We usually don't allow you to dedicate riparian buffers.
I think he was saying that I think that northern portion of that road that is not in the riparian buffer and is on its own above the road, it meets the requirement.
If it does, but still
Or
you
he's gonna
can't,
make sure that it
you still can't dedicate it as, green space or, parkland. It is, people aren't gonna be down there messing around.
to that lower.
Yeah. So what we're saying is we do not need a variance on parkland dedication. So we do not have to.
So we can just
So we'll
parkland.
modify it, we'll see a modification.
There'll be a modification where that's gone. Okay.
All right.
Yep.
So, and in terms of the riparian buffers, if you guys want to be clear that there will be no building, no structures within any lot that is encroached, we are 100% cool with that. And if that solves the problem, then that's it.
So it's just the roadways then, right? But you said
They're-
that.
Those are allowed.
So
So the riparian.
we could
Last
just
would be
say
fine,
that,
too.
we could say the final statement. And then for the 23 lot standing, we would just say that will include an easement for the riparian buffer
Yeah.
on said lot.
And we have language in the code about that anyway, that.
Right, I'm just thinking.
Well,
about
yeah, I know
for the motion.
what I'm saying,
Yeah, for the motion. Okay.
Like you're right.
I'm trying. Hot mess.
Yeah, boy.
Any other questions regarding the riparian buffer?
No.
I have a couple just like general project questions. Rainwater collection, they use it for the purpose of supplementing irrigation, so rain barrels, not full, actual, 60,000 tank rainwater collections for the whole house. And how would that be enforced? You said within the HOA?
No, we want this in the PDD.
Okay.
I'm not
And
sure
how
if I
can we write that?
I'd have to see if the city's got the authority. So we're not the utility provider here. We're not the water provider. So if some cities require it as part of hooking up to their water system. From just a pure regulatory standpoint, I don't know if we can do that. I'd have to check.
See, we would like to explore that honestly, because I believe if we set that standard, now we're actually make it enforceable by for the bylaws. I think it could force a whole bunch of people eventually follow that standard later. I believe it's worth to take it to explore taking it out of the HOA's hand and into the city's hand, and it's enforceable. People
You're gonna have to take it out of HOA's hand, because the state has made, along the other rulings, 108 or 801 different laws that went into effect yesterday. They took a lot of things out of HOA's hands, like, you can't restrict somebody from putting up a security gate in front of their house. You can't enforce them to do gutters on their house. You can't enforce them to do rainwater collection. As I understand it, there's just a lot of different things that they took out of away from HOAs in the last general session of the legislature. So yeah, you might want to look at that. It might be something.
I think it's
put
pretty
the
cool to have
BDD,
for a
HOA.
city to be able to
Yeah.
enforce that. We'll see if we can. That's something we only get one legal review on this, and that's after P and Z makes a recommendation when we draft the ordinance. That's when we get legal input.
Right.
So,
Okay.
we'll look at it.
Any other questions or discussion before we go to public comment?
Yeah. You said that you're gonna try and make the development reuse rainwater from the detention ponds?
You guys are gonna explore it.
Explore it? Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Look,
I don't see how you're gonna do that.
no, hold.
Because anything you reserve for rainwater catchment is non-usable. Because then it's full and not available for use if it were to rain, right?
One thing when we talk about this, basically be a three-stage system. You have the wet pond on the bottom, the retention area on top of that. So you have a normal pool of wet pond, retention area volume, and then detention. That's the system.
But you're using batch detention,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. You're using Eco's product for that? It looked like Eco's product.
We're not sure yet.
Okay. And then you said you're leaving it 34% impervious cover. You're building the detention ponds to 34%.
So that was the initial conceptual design was basically did the RD 348, the QCD calculations for the 30 and the detention volume, assuming the quarter or the 80-foot, 60-foot lots. That was the initial design, and then scaled back the impervious to what we are now. But we didn't change any of the quality design, any of the detention design.
Okay, so that's all staying the same.
So that's to us. We look at the extra 5 lots, which is a lot, 2%.
Well,
that's why we give a little bit here. Our hope is that you guys will consider all of this when you make your conditional case.
In general, ask that because this is one of the larger concerns of the community generally is the drainage and the detention aspect. So the fact that you're providing more is good. I just don't. There's nothing really to hold you to that, right? At the end of the day, you said that it was a 1.3-inch storm event on Atlas 14. What is that? I don't even know.
It's like a 1 year.
Is that about a 1
30
year?
minute or hour storm?
Yeah. Okay. And then what's the net volume? Do you know what the net volume increase is from the subdivision? I get we're going back to pre-existing flows, but what's net volume increase? Percentage roughly.
I don't know the answer. I know that we're on limestone, we're on these soils.
Yeah.
So he has a lot of runoff already.
Yeah.
So I don't know that answer, but
I mean, when you did your pond calculation, you did a good job showing that. So I was just generally curious because, right, That's one of the other things we look at, right? Yes, you are releasing over a longer period of time. I get all that, but it's a net volume increase that you've got to then get out downstream. I don't know, I have some fundamental things about detention and or third watershed that I won't talk about. So anyway, all right, I think those were my general drainage questions.
Any other questions? Okay, so before we open up public comment, just want to remind everyone again, we have a 3-minute time limit. And again, we cannot discuss feedback with you. I will say before getting started today, city staff reminded me of just some rules I'm just gonna share with everyone as well. So you will be allowed to give your time if you are not wanting to speak to someone else to speak. However, it is limited then at 6 minutes. So if anyone here is planning on giving more time, just know it can only be on only one person can share time, not multiple people. So if there's anyone who's already signed up who's planning to do that, it might be useful I can go ahead and mark that down. So when the other speaker starts, we can go ahead and start at 6 minutes rather than 3. Is someone planning that already? Okay, perfect. So just before you start speaking, let us know who else on this list is going to be voiding their time for you. And then in terms of like exhibits and things of that nature that you might have with you today, we unfortunately are not going to take them or see them because they were not part of the entire agenda packet, so it didn't go to the entire public. So just to kind of keep things square and easy for the city, that is also going to be our statement for this evening. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open public comment at 8:38. Mr. Lyndon Sisk.
Councilwoman Chapman has generously donated her 3 minutes to me, so I should have a 6-minute limit. Good evening, Commissioners. I previously spoke of my concerns about the flooding potential of runoff from this development into the Johnson Ranch between the school and the fire station, and then down across 1863 into what is already designated as a 100-year floodplain. Several of you current commissioners were serving with me in September of 2023 when a developer representing the Bill Miller organization presented a proposal for development of 7 acres near the northeast corner of the intersection of highways 46 and 281, containing a restaurant, hotel, and retail space. The proposal requested variances to the tree preservation ordinance, the cut and fill ordinance, and the steep slope disturbance ordinances. That proposal was tabled by a vote of 6-1 in September, largely about skepticism from the plans to mitigate drainage issues caused by the impervious cover into an area with already known flooding problems, returned in October and mercifully died a well-deserved death. Those lots were never developed. Similar issues with respect to drainage, you all may recall, ended a recent proposal from the church to develop property along the Highway 46 west of Bulverde. While I was serving on the term, we also terminated proposals to build a storage building behind the Tractor Supply building and the expansion of Noah's Ark to the property to the north, again, largely because of drainage issues. The lesson from the evaluation of these proposals is that not every piece of real estate that can be developed within the city limits of Bulverde should be developed. I note that the current proposal document nowhere uses the term variance, using instead the terms modification, alteration, or adjustment, which appears to be a subterfuge to conceal the fact that they are in fact requests for variances. The city has procedures for considering variances from established ordinances to which this document does not conform. The first 2 stated purposes of the subdivision ordinance of the city of Bulverde are these: to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Bulverde and its extraterritorial jurisdiction. Ensure that new development is compatible with the natural resources and topography of the city and ETJ and does not present environmental hazards. Of the proposed 229 lots, 171 have slopes steeper than 15%, 137 of them have slopes steeper than 20%, and 92 have slopes steeper than 25%. The submission proposes no limitations on dealing with those disturbances with the front 150 feet of those lots. In addition, you already have dealt with the tree survey, which allows clear cutting those lots within certain limits and only replace 2 trees with minimum diameters of 3 inches. In page after page, the document proposes to modify or simply ignore many of the city's carefully considered development ordinances. If you look at Exhibit E.2, it's 12 pages of red-lined text. Perhaps someday there will be a proposal to develop this property with due attention to the city's well-established standards. This proposal is not it. The PDD ordinance says that City Council may require a drainage analysis and a traffic analysis prior to considering a PDD proposal. I strongly suggest that the recommendation of this body should be that both should be done before the City Council addresses this proposal. Thank you. I'd be glad to address any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sisson.
Hold it, Lindsay, wait, before you leave, go back.
Questions?
Oh, we can't ask questions on this? Okay, never mind.
Sorry, Mr. Sisson. Thank you.
Okay.
It's okay. Oh goodness.
Loanne, I got
Loanne, I'm gonna butcher it.
Loanne Ragello.
Is that correct? How do you pronounce your name? Ronquillo. Lorraine. Good evening. I'm Lorraine Ronquillo.
And I live at 3777 Lariat Drive in Bulverde. And based on the developer's town meeting, he indicated this development would be containing $1 million homes. And we'd really be supportive of that because that would really enhance the character of Bulverde. But my question is, how is the city going to ensure that the developer will make good on these representations, since the city doesn't have an inspection department, to ensure that the developer builds in accordance to whatever plans the city approves? How is the city going to ensure that the developer doesn't sell out to Lennar to build cracker box houses? He's not provided a street level conceptual elevation view of what the development would look like from Highway 281. Such an elevation view would give you and the residents an idea what the development will look like when completed. Again, I'd support $1 million development, but the city needs to ensure the developer will stick to his word. He plans 230 single-family homes. Surely he can dedicate more acreage to usable parkland than they were talking about. With respect to trees, Exhibit D2, tree canopy site plan, it's very concerning as it appears that most of the property will be clear cut, which has all been talked about. Other developers can build around large trees, and why can't this developer? The developer claims he's a small developer, yet he's never defined that characterization. McCarty Ranch is a beautiful property on 281. It'd be a shame to see its hillside scalped, as it appears they could be. Given the multitude of variances requested, maybe this project should be left to a larger developer who has the capacity to build $1 million homes without the need for a volume of variances. Finally, there's nothing in the ordinances or state law that requires you to approve this development. Rather, the commission should have full knowledge of the risks of both the development and the surrounding properties before recommending approval. Thank you.
David Ronquillo.
Commissioners, thank you very much. My name is David Ronquillo, and I live at 3777 Lariat Drive in Bulverde. The developer has submitted a PDD application of more than 100 pages. The developer expects you to grant him approval of the multitude of variance requests within a matter of minutes, depending on the amount of your discussion here tonight. This is not a request for a food truck or a soundstage where the results of your decision would most likely be negligible. Rather, his request relies on you trusting him to do what he says he will do. My question Do you trust him? He wants certainty. What certainty do you have that he will do what he says he will do? Part of the PDD ordinance in item A states applicants are encouraged to create a development that incorporates quality development standards. Where has the developer incorporated quality development standards in his plan? If anything, the voluminous number of requests calls for a lowering of the city development standards. Further, the ordinance does not require you to modify any of the standards. In fact, the PDD ordinance states that the city council may require any additional information, analysis, or study they deem necessary to evaluate the application. I don't believe this precludes the Planning and Zoning Commission from recommending additional studies, such as a comprehensive tree survey, so you know what's out there. In the application process, the planning department shall conduct a review to determine whether the application is administratively complete. Does that mean the application has all the boxes checked? Or does it mean that the planning department has conducted a comprehensive analysis looking at the impact of the requested variances on the city's other ordinances, impact on the surrounding properties, and the impact on future residents of this development? From the planning department, I see a recitation of the project summary and a listing of the variance requests, but no in-depth analysis. Perhaps city policies preclude a comprehensive analysis of the project, or perhaps their analysis is not open to the public. As with any major medical procedure, it's always wise for the patient to get a second opinion. Will the city request a review of these plans by an independent third-party engineering firm to determine the various impacts of the various requests? Finally, how are you assured that the developer will not clear-cut everything like Lennar did on Highway 306? How will the residents of Johnson Ranch, where I live, and the fire department be assured they will not be flooded with runoff from development? And finally, on Narrow Street, come out to Johnson Ranch around school time. You cannot get a fire truck down Horseshoe Path. While this development may ultimately be good for the city, I would not make a recommendation until I am sure of all the risks of this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Koski.
Hello. I live at 31563 Bulverde Hills Drive. And I just really want to make a point here that the trees are important to our city. And in June of 2011, the city of Bulverde created a separate ordinance from the zoning just to protect the native and the established trees. The purpose of ordinance 17.06.001 stated that trees, once destroyed, can only be replaced after generations, if at all. Trees provide for open space and more efficient drainage of land, therefore reducing the effects of solar erosion and the need of additional drainage facilities. The purpose of the law is to also prevent the clear cutting of land and mitigate the ill effects of rapid and intense urbanization. I appreciate the tree study that was just done on McCarty Ranch, but I think it only really talked about a small portion of the property. It looks like a portion of it, of the three areas that were studied, might have been in part of the riparian buffer. And I just wonder if that's a fair assessment of the total trees of the property. In the riparian buffer or a ravine area, sometimes only what are called junk trees are in there. So those aren't the protected trees that we're considering. But again, if we allow the areas around the riparian buffer or the areas that the developer is asked to clear, we can end up with that entire clear-cut look. So I know you guys have been talking about this, but I just feel it needs to be repeated again. I ask that you really consider the validity of this study, but I feel that we really do need a proper legal survey, and I feel that you should press on that that is done, and that each and every one of those trees is identified properly so that we know exactly what's on that property and what should be protected and preserved. Article 15 of the current application, the developer is asked to modify the ordinance to allow for the removal of protected specimen and majestic trees within the steep slope disturbance zone. I want you to ask, how will this affect the area? What about the risk of landslides and the risk of floods? Just got done talking about the basin collecting for 1 inch of water. I believe July 5th, didn't we have about 3 inches of water here in Bulverde on one day? Actually, I think in a few hours. We can't forget that. One Stop Group has asked to limit the total cost of replacement of the trees. Oh, thank you.
Cheryl Short.
Hello, y'all. My name is Cheryl Short. I live at 30860 Slaughter Lane in Johnson Ranch South. I've become increasingly concerned, as I've lived there now for 10 years, about what I'm seeing going by with drainage issues. The tributary that runs south of this property drains down to and underneath 281 and comes into Johnson Ranch between the fire station and the elementary school. This last rain in July, the water was so high, the firemen were out there taking videos of it because it had just about gone out of its banks. And there's a bridge right there on Johnson Way. The water was almost at the top of that. I understand that they took some of the fire equipment, the trucks, out of the fire station because they were concerned about being able to get out and get to neighbors if they needed it. So that's a safety issue for all of Bulverde, not just Johnson Ranch. Moving on from there, the tributary that same tributary then joins 21, which goes along the western portion of Johnson Way. That area was so high that the culvert of Luria cul-de-sac right in there, that cul-de-sac could not drain. So water backed up into the cul-de-sac and it came up about 2 feet from some of these people's front doors. We've never seen that before in the neighborhood. We're looking at doing maintenance down there and there could be an issue with it being clogged at 1863, but it's still so much water is coming to us. In the north, the tributary north of this property will drain into Mustang Vista and it goes across over to Forest Ranch. The detention pond this time up in the north had so much water, it was moving up closer to neighbors than it ever had before. And my understanding is Mustang Vista actually had water over it. And there are videos of the fire truck kind of trying to go through it. So I know they're talking about what they plan to do, but I still worry that we are going to end up with a lot of water in our neighborhood that I don't know how we're going to address it when it happens. I'll say the rest of this because you have a lot of people talking. I'm just going to ask, there is a Bulverde Storm Drainage Criteria Manual that I spent a lot of time yesterday reading through. And I would just ask, you all created that. You did it for a reason, and it's for the drainage and the flash flooding that goes on in Bulverde. So please adhere to what is in there and don't let any developer get all of these variances to get around it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Gary Short.
Members of the commission, thank you so much for your dedication to your job here, although it be voluntary. We do thank you for the questions that have already been raised tonight, and they'll cover some of the things that I had to say. Some of my resident friends and very special friends have already brought forward some really good questions. It's really about drainage and potential flooding that comes to my mind. You have the Storm Drainage Design Criteria Manual, and it was created, as has been stated tonight, to present to you and to the city minimum standards to be dealt with throughout the city and the ETJ for that matter. As I've looked into these and looked at the variances that this developer had presented, you're really being asked to ignore, modify, or adjust the very standards that are in this manual that have done a very good job of protecting the gateway to the hill country, if you will. in certain areas being asked to take down trees, even majestic trees, and being replaced with trees 3-inch diameter. How is this going to impact the runoff from this area? Not to mention the destruction of what we call hill country, which is the hill country. Why would we consider giving variances that would allow these things to happen that are already described in the minimum standards? I would also ask you to remember that we are involved in explicitly the flash flood alley. Current residents are certainly alarmed as to what would happen if we did not have these standards to protect us all. The applicant has said that a drainage study is not required. It may not be required, but it may be required by the city council as a condition of the consideration of the application. As I understand it, this could be the single most difficult property to construct or to develop because of where it is located and because of all the issues, including, as has been mentioned, the 2 tributaries that flow from this into the floodplain. These both cause effect not on Johnson Ranch North and South, but other residents further down. We would ask you if you are going to consider this to be able to provide the resources to effectively study, to provide engineers who would be able to review this, and certainly if it were to move forward, to be able to provide city personnel who would be able to monitor it. It is our hope that you will stay with the standards that have been so artfully constructed and are protecting the citizens and residents. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Robert Boyd.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. I'm sure you get time and a half like I am tonight. Okay, I want to talk about the water. All right. I live at 4620 Blue Skies Drive in Oak Village North. I've lived here 31 years, and I'm concerned about the availability of water in the future here. Looking at this particular project, they're going to be using Texas Water Company for their services, which uses 51.2% of surface water, i.e. Canyon Lake, 36.86% from groundwater, i.e. our Trinity Aquifer, and then 11.94% from purchased water that they purchased from another water company. They're currently in stage 3 restrictions. The maximum is stage 4. Now, we have been watching Canyon Lake drop and drop and drop. Current level is 892 feet. That's 17 feet below full pool level. Prior to the the July 4th rain, flood, should I say, unfortunately, it was down to 877, full 32 feet below. Okay. It's starting to go back down again. All right. It's last time I checked, we got some rain here recently. Last 5 days, it's gone down 1/10 of a foot, but it was going down 1/10 of a foot every 3 days until we got this recent rain. We can't keep sustaining this. And as far as our current drought goes, that started in 2019, and we are here in 2025. If you look at this is our drought history since 2000. Okay, here's our drought history. All right, most of the droughts have been about 1 to 2 years. We had one back in 2011 that was for 5 years. This one is 6 years now. The worst drought we've heard of was last one I heard of was 10 years, about the 1940s, 50s. So we could still have quite a ways to go here. According to the Schedule K, the usage of water would be, 240 to 360 gallons per day. That would be 20.6 to 30.9 million gallons of water a year. it's important that we sustain this type of, our water. And I like the ideas about, doing the water containment and so forth, but, we need to take, very careful consideration for this. Thank you for your time.
Mark Koski?
Hello, I'm Mark Koski. I live at 31563 Boveri Hills Drive. I want to finish where my wife started a little bit yet, a little bit left to go. Once our group is requesting the city change the tree mitigation requirements to limit the total cost of replacements to not exceed $300,000, which we discussed about for the comfort of the developer. Alter the tree replacement requirements to not exceed the planting of 2 trees per lot and reduce the minimum replacement diameter to 6 inches or 3 inches. If you go by Johnson Ranch or Copper Canyon, you can see the difference of trees, you know, in those lots and how they vary. And that's not much of a tree, quite honestly. And that's not replace a tree that's 6 or 8 or 9 or 12 inches. And it's going to take some time for those to replace. Bulverde City Tree Ordinance 17.06.009. At least 50% of the replacement trees shall exceed 6 inches in caliper width. The code also states Texas Association of Nurserymen state that it shall have a minimum caliper width of 4 inches. 3 inches is too small. Simple as that. Please protect our trees and require a quality replacement. I ask you, is the city responsible to the developer for his costs in this project, or is the city responsible to enforce the laws and protect the city's current vision plan? The whole 2050 plan was built upon everything you guys are talking about tonight. And one of the things I recall from the last conversation a month ago, and I apologize, I don't know who said it, but one of you guys asked, if you don't get all these 9 variations mixed, are you prepared to say no to it? And someone asked that question, and he said, no, I don't want to do it. If I don't get these 9 things I need, it's not going to work. And then I made a comment later on, then we had a 45-minute discussion here about other stuff, and I'm sorry, he's just bloviating on a bunch of BS to get his point across. Yet us as a community don't get a chance to say that opportunity. And that's wrong. That is flat out wrong. So let him come back here, because he's going to come back here after we're all done and try to talk again for another 30, 45 minutes. You can shake your head, but that happened last time. So that's my reasoning behind that. It's very important that we consider what we're all here for. I moved here from California in 2007 for a reason. And I don't regret that for a moment. And I told you the story before. I drove to the home and everybody waves. This is a wonderful community. I'm not saying he's a bad developer or something like that, but he's doing things or wants to do things that go against what the city has believed is the proper way to run this town. And we've seen variations, just like the fire truck during the rainstorm going on, trying to go down that street during school getting out, going down 46 when the school's getting out over there, closing the streets down, making them narrower. It's not going to work. It's not working. It's not safe, and it's not proper. And I think you guys all here understand that, take it very, very seriously. And any variation of that, I think is a tragedy. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Brian Weller?
I just got a few notes. One is, well, I've been here since 2003. So, one is whenever he's asking to go from R2 to R3, right? So I get it before. I've seen some other properties, they want to go down, and then, you know, but at least he's going in the right direction from R2, you know, taking R3 to R2, right? So, I mean, I hear Johnson Ranch a lot. When they started putting in Johnson Ranch and all the places, I drove over there and I was like, what the heck is going on, man? Look at all this cutting over here. But now they're complaining about it on this side of the street. You know, what if it was on this side and not their side? So I actually border the property, the McCarty Ranch. So that would be my fence line. When I look out my back porch, I will be looking into that subdivision. So, when Johnson Ranch and all those other ones came, I mean, HEB, I have to drive to Evans Road now. I'm kind of for this, but it's just, I mean, the variance is asking for something legit. I mean, everybody comes and asks for variance. And obviously, earlier, someone asked for a variance, right? If you want to pull your house forward, you have to ask for a variance. So he's just asking for variances on this property, man. At least he's coming up front, you know. Now, if somebody was to say, hey, I want to make that an R5, I would be like, oh, heck no, you know, I mean, we don't want to move, you know, into that direction, because then you could sell it, and then we would be stuck. I don't know if you remember on the 100-acre track, it happened a couple years ago. I don't know if somebody was here, I know. That 100-acre track was trying to get an R5 down there. Y'all probably might remember, but, so those are a couple things. Actually left my notes at the office, I had to leave early. I know the topography on that property, it's pretty rough, so I get where you want to cut and fill, you know, and I see I know about the drainage and, anyway, I mean, you should come in with the percentage. I think if you came in a little bit with some more information about percentage of each variance per property, like they were kind of asked for, that would help. Maybe the right of way width could be an issue. If there is variances, it would appear to only him. I mean, I wouldn't give it, if he decides to back out, we wouldn't be able to give it to someone else. I mean, it would only be to that builder, you know, so I think that's about all I got. I just took a few notes right now, so I didn't bring them from my last meeting. Another question I got too is think about it. Why was this ever zoned R2 and R3? Why was it ever zoned there? If somebody wasn't gonna come in to build it, that's it, you know?
Thank you. Ryan Tucker?
Good evening, Ryan Tucker, 2936 Barton Hill Drive. Words matter. More importantly, words matter in real estate context. We've heard a lot about variances this evening, and those are no doubt important. In fact, it takes forever to list out all the variances that the developer's asking for. But it's more than that. It's the extremely broad language that's included in the PDD. I want to talk briefly about the vague plans that are included there and how that's going to actually tie and screw over the city itself. I have a litany of different examples. I went through the PDD. I have pages upon pages upon pages of permissive language that's included in the PDD. Take, for example, what I call the supersede clause. I think it's Exhibit 10A, but it says where the city's code as modified herein conflicts with the feasibility of the development of the conceptual site plan, the conceptual site plan shall supersede. Well, that means that whenever the city's ordinances make development, quote unquote, infeasible, whatever that means, it's not defined. This clause effectively shifts zoning authority from the city over to the developer, replacing mandatory rules with a permissive loophole. Or better yet, take for example, in fact, I live on Barton Hill, right behind me is the Lutheran property. Last time we were here, we saw a graph or a slide that showed what the preferred water tower would look like. Now, I understand the developer can get up here and say, well, we're going to stick with our plan to place this elsewhere. Well, let's go look at the PDD and see exactly what it says. Article 8, Exhibit J, I believe. It says an optional water storage tank may be located at the 1,300-foot elevation if required by the water service provider. The words optimal, may, that's not mandating anything. As I stand here now, I have no idea where the water tank's going to go. In fact, that actually violates City Code 14.031013F. He's required to tell us where that's going to be. He didn't. As a homeowner right now, me and others on my street that are also livid about this have no idea where that's going to go. Am I going to go out in my backyard and see a gigantic water tower? I don't know. If you approve this, you're giving him that carte blanche ability to do so. Take slopes, cuts, fills. It says cuts and fills greater than 4 feet and disturbance within slopes greater than 25% may be permitted. I could go on and on. At the end of the day, words like carte blanche, give us leeway, honor the spirit, should scare the heck out of you. We should not give this developer a blank check to hose our community. I ask you to deny this.
Thank you. Everyone on the list, I did have one person that was marked out. Just want to double check that they don't want to speak, and that was Russell Hank. I want to double check they're not speaking.
Yes, he told me he thought it was a sign in comment.
Perfect. Okay. Awesome. We are closing public comment at 9:11. And I do want to say, we're going to discuss, I kind of want to go in order again, discuss internally. My hope is that we won't have any further questions, so hopefully you won't have to come up anymore at this time. We're just going to discuss. All right. Let's get started with zoning.
All right, I'm gonna say something. Jeff, I'm listening. Okay. I'm gonna throw this out. I'm gonna start right here and then we'll work our way back. I say we just blanket deny it right now. And we just say no variances, nothing. Period. We got them for a reason. We got plenty of questions about this. We just like this in a lot of ways. I say we just right across the board. We deny any request for variance, so let them work it out themselves.
Well, to your point, this is a PDD. So once the PDD, always the PDD. So we could do what you're doing and say, if you need a variance going forward, you come ask for variance, not for PDD.
So there's only one problem with that.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's currently zoned R3 in the.
Right.
So he can do, like, you know what I mean? Like we
need sewer.
Chair, could I make a request? Y'all use your microphone so we can hear what you're saying.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Sorry.
All right. You want me to restate it?
Please.
Yeah, go. Okay. I'm just gonna put this out there for the board. I think we just deny this right across the board, flat. We just say no variances, nothing right now, 0. And then you can come back and give us step-by-step variance every time you want one. I know that's gonna be more work for us, more work for the city council, but I say just flat out, no. Go ahead, Jeff.
What I mentioned is that the PDD includes all these variances into it. Meaning if we reject the PDD, the developer has to come back for each and every variance rather than us just saying, okay, you can have everything in the PDD.
And then Brad.
Yeah, I guess my only concern is, right, at a high level, right, just cutting everything out.
Yeah.
Is R2 in general a better deal than part R2, part R3?
We can't even do R3, because you gotta have a sewer plant.
No, I
They
know.
already admitted to do
No, I get that, right, but.
Only approved R2.
So here's my point. If we don't put a clause that says he can go back to R30, he's past the PDD, then it's locked into R2 forever.
I think you should, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think you need to reject it as a package, including the zoning change if you're gonna do that, for that reason.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, because we can't vote on.
Not, take out, say, we're gonna keep the R2 zoning, we're gonna get rid of everything else.
No. I'm stating, are there things we can live with to get the whole thing R2? Or would we rather just roll the dice and say, if somebody comes in and is gonna do R3, they're gonna do R3?
I mean, there are some things that I'm okay with in his.
And that's why I'm okay with something. I guess my
Some
point
things I'm not okay with.
is an R2 deal with some variances, something that we would want to entertain. Because if we say no, he's gonna walk away, and then somebody could come in and go R3 on the whole thing and just strip that whole, I mean, granted, they're gonna pay a ton of tree stuff, I'm sure, but you know what, you see what I'm saying, right? Like,
Okay.
Something else.
I'm gonna say this. Now, we had discussions, you know, in our combined meeting of the day. Nobody in this, the one way to die in the city of Bulverde is to come in here without a plan for your water and to try to get something less than 1 acre lot. I mean, I guarantee you that people sitting on the city council would rather die in the spot than have that happen. And most of us would, all of us would. So.
But someone could come forward.
And comply with
all of
your
our
and
ordinances.
you are.
But they can do that, but we can cause enough.
Not if they follow the code.
No, state law, we could.
But to that point, they still have to have water no matter what.
No, I agree with that.
But there are also problems
there's
later down the road in this process.
There's ways to delay things too. There's ways to delay developments and projects too. I'm not worried about somebody coming in on R3 and doing this. What I'm saying is this is patchwork. There's things in here I don't have a I think honestly that this is a good thing for the developer and for the city, but I just hate this, oh gee, let's give a nickel, I want a nickel here, and 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 it's all patchwork, and I don't like the way that this is set forward for us to look at. I don't even think you can get a loan. This is my opinion, so I'm gonna say this carefully, this is my opinion. I don't think he can go to the bank unless he's got a better relationship with his banker than I do, and I have a really good relationship with my banker. I don't think he can go to the bank and get a loan because he can't get full water for this. My banker would never do this, and I've built projects.
Again, that's something for later on that you would have to, I mean, right now, there's this total halt on any water coming.
Right, there's no water.
Yeah, they're not even entertaining applications at this time.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, you can pipe water in from East Texas or wherever else, but that doesn't make it economically feasible, but he's not worried about that. That's the people that are buying houses that worry about that. So I'm just throwing it out as that's now, if y'all think that's not fair, if y'all think it's not fair to just reject this out of hand, then we need to go back and we'll go down and go on. I don't have any problem with that, but I just wanted to make that first point.
I think my worry comes from who could be waiting in the shadows to take this property.
They're still gonna have a lot of the same issues that they have with.
But if they can follow ordinances
still might
and pay in lieu, I mean, they made the city.
Well, and I'll just clarify, the city's position is that you can do R2 on the back and R3 on the front. We're fine with that as long as it's 100% compliance with the ordinance.
Right.
Which that could
That's gonna
happen.
be very difficult.
But that's our position, that's our position.
Well, that's true, and you know,
we get 100% compliance.
and we've seen, you know, the different project guys. There's nobody at Lamar as smart as that guy. I know it, but you know, that doesn't mean that they don't have lawyers back to make all of the I's dotted and T's crossed too.
Hey, there were some questions that came up during public comment that I think might be useful since it's kind of a matter of fact. You could go really quickly just on like the process that a development needs to go through within the city of Bulverde. Right now we're in the PDD stage. Right. There's MDP, there's planning. Can you just kind of go through that process and kind of what brief overview what kind of comes up on each aspect? Because this isn't the first time we're going to be seeing this property.
I mean, generally speaking, if somebody comes in for development and they already comply with the zoning restrictions, then they can head straight to planning. If they don't, then they've got to get the zoning, the use authorization lined out first. But the second step is planning, where we're going to get, on a development like this, master development plan that's going to give us the phasing and some of the big questions like water, sewer, other things are going to be answered. Then we're going to get into the planning itself of each individual phase, where we're going to get the street geometry, we're going to get the utility layouts, we're going to see the lot layouts in a final fashion, and we're going to see the construction start on the infrastructure, and we're going to get the tree survey. Well, actually, I think we get the tree survey now at the MDP stage, but generally what we get is just the survey, and they don't bother telling us what's going to come out until they come to. We get a survey of all the trees and they say zero mitigation, we're not taking any out of this stage. So then we get, when the individual plats inside that development are platted, we get the actual plan for what's going to be removed, what the actual plan for mediation and the fees are for trees, and any variance requests come at that point.
Can they do that? Can they do the drainage plan when, just so they're
at the individual plat stage? They don't do the drainage analysis at the MDP stage. They do it at the plat stage because the street geometry and the lot layouts affect that pretty significantly.
And at this time, there's no alterations being requested to the actual drainage manual.
To the drainage manual itself, no. It will alter. The drainage manual is basically a giant calculation or equation. So it'll affect what comes in and what comes out. But the manual itself, no.
They're not asking for variances.
Right.
In any of our districts.
That's correct.
And what about the traffic?
I'm sorry?
The traffic portion?
The traffic portion is also going to come at the,
phase?
I think they're going to get it, we usually get it at the MVP stage, and then we may get modifications to it at the planning stage or something.
At the phase plots?
Yeah.
Something.
But usually we'll get one for the whole development, and as long as each section that comes in conforms with the assumptions that were made at the MVP stage, they don't change.
I would just like to say that I don't think that if somebody came in behind this developer, they would never get the cut and fill and disturbance passed. They wouldn't get a tree survey, a removal and mitigation variance passed, and they wouldn't get the riparian buffer variance passed either. So that's 3 huge strikes, I think, for someone trying to come in and bring it R2 or R2 and R3.
So you're saying in the sense of like, even with denial, it's not viable, is what you're saying?
That if we deny this and then someone comes in after them and says, I want to develop it at all R3 or R2 and R3, with those 3 variances they'd be asking for, we would never approve those.
Well, and I want to clarify that. I want to make sure that we're clear about that. There is an infinite number of ways property could be arranged or proposed for development. And any request would stand on its own merits when it came in. So we're not prejudging what could happen now. No, I believe that there are solutions to just about every proposal. Whether that meets the developer's ROI requirements, I don't know, but that's not the city's problem. So I wanted to make that clear.
He could build this to code.
He could.
He's just gonna lose a lot of that.
That's what I'm saying. It's not our problem that gee, it's $1 million for trees or $2 million for trees. It's not our problem that the street needs to be 30 feet wide instead of 20 feet wide. I'm just saying, geez, we're being overwhelmed. We're being nickel and dimed to death with the things right here. And rather than make a mistake, rather than give somebody carte blanche on something, I say, build like we drew it up in the city plans.
So to that same point, let the developer come back with a plan for R2 and R3 the way it's already set. And if there's a variance needed, come back at that time and ask for it. Rather than doing this PDD.
But also, it's that down below, they're already flooding unbelievably. So if we were to pass this, it's just going to compound. And I know that they say that they can mitigate that, or there won't be any additional flooding, and in fact, it will improve it. But I don't think that we're at that point yet on this property, or the property around it. I just don't think that what they're proposing, because it's already a problem for it to flood down below. So if they go in and they cut and fill and they have all these different mechanisms for storage of the water, I just don't think at this point that it's going to improve. It's just going to make it worse down below. That's just my
opinion. Engineering is not an exact science. I'll say that. But I do believe in it, and this method works. I think that it will work. Again, it's not an exact science, but I believe in engineering. So if they say that they're designing the pond right, I think they are.
Well, I mean, no.
And if they're reading code, then they're reading code.
No, they hired the right engineer.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they hired the right engineer, and the stuff that he presented is good, you know?
I think there's always very extreme cases that fall outside of things that people can latch onto, and that happens a lot. But again, it's what I do for a living too, so I believe in it. And it's generally a very conservative process. And so that particular aspect doesn't faze me as much as some of the other things do. But he's not even asking for any variances for that. So it's not really. I mean, I get what we're saying. It's like, hey, that's a concern overall. But I do think that what they're doing is the right thing to do, and I do think it's productive, personally.
That's my view as well. So how do we move forward?
Well, I think at this point, I know where I'm at. If you want to make a motion to deny it, we can take a vote on it. If we get 4 votes, then it's denied. If not, then we can move on to trying to figure out how to piece it together. I don't know how the rest of y'all feel about it, but I don't know, Danny, at this point, I guess probably the right thing to do, I
I
would
think
guess,
that's the simplest way to handle it.
is,
Okay.
you know,
Can I ask one quick question? Danny, I feel like I've asked you like a million times. I'm still always trying to wrap my head around PDD, just kind of purpose and everything. Main thing, let's say if we take all the modifications out of it, then it's just the zoning change. Right?
It's
Is that
not
all
really
that-
a
is that all-
PDD anymore,
Yes.
it's just a zone change at that point, and it's one that would be considered negative to the property owner, because there's no balancing, we have to renotice and present it, in the state law about downzoning something. So you could do that, but then we'd need to renotice it.
his olive branch is, I will do all R2 if you give me something. Right?
And if we take
Yeah.
away
But
the.
if we say, you're not giving me anything, but we'll take the R2, that's not.
We
That's a
could
zoning
move
change.
forward, but it'd be reposting, renoticing, and we consider just the downzoning.
It'd be just a zone change at that point.
Yeah.
Whatever you like.
Whatever, all people ready telling me that. I would like to recommend to the city council, I would like to make a recommendation, I think we should make a recommendation to the city council to deny the, how do I put this?
Recommend denial of the application for land development.
Okay, I recommend we deny, or I recommend that we advise the city council deny the PDD for this application.
We have a recommendation?
I
Anyone
second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of denial?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Denied. Okay, item 3, any public comment not related to postage agenda items?
Did anyone sign up?
No one signed up. So we are adjourned at 9:29. Thank you, everyone.
Like you said,
I'll be honest with you, I did not know. I did not know. That was about here.